Hey, welcome back everyone to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 153, Economics. I'm here with my co-facilitator, Lionel.
Hello, everyone. How y'all doing today? How you doing today, Mike?
I'm good, just good yourself, brother.
I am well.
All right. There is a docket in the description beneath the video. Please hit the like button as you come in, share it if possible. And just for reference, we are not certified financial planners. If you want a certified financial planner, please go to cfp.net and look up one in your area. And I will pull up the first item on the docket. All right, so first item on the docket is from CNBC.com. Fund manager with $4,000 Tesla target says this is the next big thing for stock. It's not even the end of the first quarter, but Tesla is already tracking for its worst year on record. The electric auto stock is down more than 15% since the beginning of January. Its first negative year since 2016, after the company warned of a loss its first quarter, and as CEO Elon Musk continues to raise the SEC's ire. ARK Invest CEO and CIO Kathy Wood, whose ARK ETF has topped the market this year, says the Tesla is set to rip high, which says over the next few years the stock will rise between 146% and a head spinning 1,306%. Quote, this is the 5 year time horizon, which said on CNBC's ETF Edge on Monday. Quote, $4,000 is $4,000 is the bull case. $700 is the bear case. It's rare for us to have a stock that meets our minimum hurdle rate of return in the bear case. So it's north of 15% compound annual rate of return to get our bear case target. What is the second largest weighting? I know. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Just lost connection there for a second. Oh, Tesla is scaling the electric vehicle market, said Wood. We think the electric vehicle says sales in 2023 will be in total globally 26 million units, up from 1.3 million last year. So that's a 20-fold increase. We're talking about exponential growth. The automaker reported a production and delivery rate of nearly 1,000 vehicles a day in its fourth quarter. Production over the quarter over Production over the quarter hit an all-time high. I don't want to read this whole thing, but Tesla hitting $4,000. I don't know. I guess if they were the only kids on the block, that might make sense. But $4,000 in the market that's about to be crammed with Volvo, Porsche, um, I don't want to say Lincoln, BMW. I don't know. I'm a little weary on that. I'm not really feeling that at all.
Yeah, $4,000 in their current price is a little above $200. That's a that's a drastic increase. That's drastic. But she's
Mhm.
basing this because of this industrial revolution is coming in, and she's saying, well, Tesla has a unique advantage because it's been doing it for a while, and with these new innovations coming in, it will. I think she's saying that Tesla will take a is in a better position to take advantage of these new innovations that are coming in, and because of those, she think, and I'm pretty sure other information, but according to this article, because of those, Tesla stock will go between a bear on a bearish level 700, on a bullish level 4,000.
Yeah, and I mean it makes sense if you're just looking at Tesla isolated from everything else. But when I look at Tesla going forward in that trajectory, I'm seeing other competition that's going to drive a wedge in between that bull run. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happens, but I see multiple different brands coming onto the market that are not dependent upon Tesla at all. BMW working with Toyota, um, Ford working with IBM and a couple other manufacturers. Uh, GM working along as well. Mercedes, Porsche, Audi
Yeah,
e-tron. There's just so many other things that's about to come out by 2020. It's hard to see for Tesla at 4,000. If Tesla's going to be at 4,000, then what about everybody else, right? Everybody else is going to be moonshotting as well. So
yeah. I agree with you saying more people, more car manufacturers are going to come out, are going to grab more bigger pies of that um, electric vehicle pie, and they have the capacity to make even more cars, flood the streets with more cars. And Tesla doesn't have that manufacturing capacity now. Excuse me. In an article, she did point out 5 innovation platforms that she think should represent a multi-trillion-dollar opportunities, which are DNA sequencing, robotics, energy storage, deep learning, blockchain technology. And those are technologies that are part of the fourth industrial revolution. But I agree with you saying she is uh, part of a fund manager, so it's like she got to uh, shield her
keep
fund
people
manager,
happy.
right? And but you know what? I did subscribe to the podcast. She said in the video that she is, FYI for your innovation. So I will
Okay.
check out what they talk about on there.
hmm All right, let's get to the next one. This next one is from CNBC.com again. Morgan Stanley says automakers want to sell cars like Tesla does, but can't. It's against the law. Tesla's announcement last week that it is moving sales fully online is a major event in U.S. auto retailing because traditional automakers still need to go through physical dealerships. Morgan Stanley analyst Adam Jonas said in a note to investors on Tuesday, quote, from our discussions with traditional automakers over many years, most auto companies would love to sell vehicles the way Tesla does. There's just one catch. They can't. It's against the law, Jonas said. Jonas is widely followed on Wall Street for his thoughts on Tesla and electric vehicles. Across the U.S., state laws require car makers to sell new vehicles through dealers. Quote, Tesla is the only original equipment manufacturer, to our knowledge, that is allowed to sell its wares through company-owned stores, Jonas said. Tesla is now trying to make this major step further to be the only automaker to sell new cars directly to consumers online without the involvement of a physical dealer. Morgan Stanley believes the U.S. auto dealers, through regulatory representatives, may resist this tactic, Jonas said. But because Tesla does not technically have any dealer franchises and already sells without dealerships, Tesla's move online will likely be also protected, Jonas suspects. If this change if this change works and Tesla sees the cost saving the company expects, Jonas said Elon Musk's electric car company may be a catalyst for more automakers to reevaluate existing regulations. Quote, then investors should look for a revival of the debate around auto dealer franchise laws, Jonas said. He compared that debate to retail banking, where evolving regulations resulting in banks offering services online at lower cost to them and better pricing to consumers. Jonas said Tesla's plan might Tesla's plan may work. Jonas said as it's just too easy to buy a Tesla through the company's website. It's 3 clicks. That's about as many clicks as it takes to buy catnip on Amazon. Jonas said. Morgan Stanley has equal weight rating and a 283 price target on Tesla's shares. I mean, we talked about this last week, but I think that this is, to my knowledge, people have always bought Teslas online. You wanted to pre-order a Model 3, there was no dealership for you to go into and do that. You opened up an app on your phone, or you went to Tesla.com and you pre-ordered your vehicle. That's always been the method for buying a Tesla. I mean, no one really went to a dealership to go buy a Tesla unless they just wanted to test drive it for themselves. And people who test drive Teslas at dealerships really don't have any intentions on buying them. They just want to test drive them, right? When you order online, you're almost a guarantee. You're a guaranteed customer. You put in a lot of trust into buying a vehicle that you either haven't driven yet or you have driven before, and you're comfortable going through a website to order a car in the same way you order, Uber Eats or something like that, or some form of online Grubhub.
Yeah, I always thought the same thing too, because I always heard stories of people waiting a large amount of time for their Tesla to be built and shipped to them. We covered an article last year, Q4 last year, which said that there weren't enough truck drivers. How Elon Musk bought a truck delivery,
Hmm.
a transportation trucking company to deliver all the cars that people ordered before the year went out because there wasn't enough truck drivers to deliver the cars that who can haul cars across the world because of the tax breaks that was running out. And I always thought people ordered their Teslas on Tesla.com and all that. Until I went to a mall and saw a Tesla store. Now it was in a mall. They only had the Model S and the Model Y there. Um, but the article did say how other Tesla, which we went over again, is closing stores to save money. They own those stores. They don't contract with, not to my knowledge, with third parties. So they have,
Franchise.
right, franchise. So they have the ability to just close up a store. But other car manufacturers like GM, Chevy and things, they franchise. So they can't, like the article said, they can't do that, or else something's going to happen. Now, obviously, yes, they would prefer to do it to save a lot of money in some ways that I can't think of right now. Because if they were not going to save money, then this article wouldn't be up. But good for Tesla. Elon Musk uses his mind. We all see, and Tesla is closing stores to save money.
Hmm. I mean, these are good strategies. I think it's one thing to order your food or order something from Amazon Prime and have it shipped same day, but what happens when you can order a car like that, right? You come home from work and there's a car sitting outside for you because Tesla still has these dealerships with these massive lots. They've taken over some old dealerships from like Mercury and some of these other places that have shut down before, with different franchises that have shut down before. So they have a lot of car space available to allocate these vehicles. So if you wanted a car that same day, or not that same day, I should say, but if you wanted a car overnight, you could actually get that. If you don't customize it or anything like that. But most people who buy Teslas, they customize it. But if you wanted a car the next day, if you got up 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday and wanted a car on Tuesday, that's possible because they have enough inventory in place where if you don't customize, you just buy a standard Tesla Model 3, Model S, that car can be delivered to you very next day, all charged up and ready to go. And somebody will drop it off for you, and you just need to be there to sign the paperwork. But again, like your experience in blockchain, if you had a smart contract, that stuff could be pre-filled out, and that information could be submitted, and the smart contract will say, yeah, drop off at this location, such, or drop it off while I'm at work, so I could drive home from work. That sort of deal. So there's a lot of things that can go on in the background of these sort of online ordering systems for vehicles now.
Oh man, that would be nice. Imagine you ordering a Tesla and they're able to drop it off at your job. You took an Uber to work, but on the way back home, you go outside and they especially drop it off at your lunch break. Oh, that would be nice.
That happens now.
Oh, that's so nice. Oh my God, that's nice.
That happens
The
now.
real.
Most corporations already have Tesla charging stations set up as a part of their parking, their employee parking privileges. So there's always about maybe 4 or 5 charging stations set up.
Oh man, that's
At
nice.
least the places I've worked. Yeah, the places I've worked. So, all right, this next one is from NewYorkTimes.com. Google finds it's underpaying many men as it addresses wage equity. Interesting. San Francisco. When Google conducted a study recently to determine whether the company was underpaying women and members of minority groups, it found to the surprise of just about everyone that men were paid less money than women for doing similar work. The study, which disproportionately led to pay raises for thousands of men, is done every year. But the latest findings arrive as Google and other companies in Silicon Valley face increasing pressure to deal with gender issues in the workplace, from sexual harassment to wage discrimination. Gender inequality is a radioactive topic at Google. The Labor Department is investigating whether the company systematically underpays women. It has been sued by former employees who claimed they were paid less than men with the same qualifications. And just in last fall, thousands of Google employees protested the way the company handles sexual harassment claims against top executives. Critics said the results of the pay study could give a false impression. Company officials acknowledged that it did not address whether women were hired at a lower pay grade than men with similar qualifications. Google seems to be advancing a quote flawed and incomplete sense of equality by making sure men and women receive similar salaries for similar work, said Joel Emerson, chief executive of Paradigm, a consulting company that advises companies on strategies for increasing diversity. That is not the same thing. That is not the same as addressing equity, she said, which would involve examining the structural hurdles that women face as engineers. Google has denied paying women less, and the company agreed that compensation among similar job titles was not by itself a complete measure of equity. A more difficult issue to solve, one that critics say Google often mismanages for women, is a human resource concept called leveling. Are employees assigned to the appropriate pay grade for their qualifications? The company said it is now trying to address the issue. Quote, because leveling, performance ratings, and promotion impact pay. This year we are undertaking a comprehensive review of these processes to make sure the outcomes are fair and equitable for all employees. Lauren Barboto, Google's lead analyst for pay equity, People Analytics, wrote in the blog post. To set an employee salary, Google starts with an algorithm using factors like performance, location, and job. Next, managers can consider subjective factors. Do they believe the employee has a strong future with the company? Is he or she being paid on par with peers who make similar contributions? Managers must provide a rationale for the decision. While the pay bump is helpful, Google's critics say it doesn't come close to matching what a woman would make if she had been assigned to the appropriate pay grade in the first place. Kelly Ellis, a former Google engineer and one of the plaintiffs in the gender pay suit against the company, said in a legal filing that Google had hired her in 2010 as a level 3 employee. The category for new software engineers who are recent college graduates. Despite her 4 years of experience, within a few weeks, a male engineer who had also graduated from college 4 years earlier was hired for Miss Ellis's team as a level 4 employee. That meant he received a higher salary and more opportunities for bonuses, raises, and stock compensation, according to the suit. Other men of the team whose qualifications were equal to or less than hers were also brought in at level 4, the suit says. The claim could become a the claim could become a class action suit representing more than 8,300 current and former and female employees. The pay study covered 91% of Google's employees and compared their compensation, salaries, bonuses, and company stock within specific job types, levels, uh, performance, and location. It was not possible to compare how racial minorities fared in terms of wage adjustments, Google said, because the United States is the only place where the global company tracks workers' racial backgrounds. Interesting. In response to the study, Google gave $9.7 million in additional compensation to 10,677 employees for this year. Men account for the Men account for about 69% of the company's workforce, but they receive a higher percentage of the money. The exact number of men who got raises is unclear. The company has done the study every year since 2012. At the end of 2017, it adjusted 228 employee salaries by a combined total of about $270,000. This year, new hires were included in the analysis for the first time, which Google said probably explained the big change in numbers. Google's workforce, especially in leadership in high paying technical roles, is overwhelmingly male and mostly white and Asian. Its efforts to increase diversity have touched off an internal culture war. In 2017, James Damore, a software engineer, wrote a widely circulated memo criticizing the company's diversity programs. He argued that biological differences and not a lack of opportunity explained shortage of women in upper tier positions. When Google fired Mr. Damore, conservatives argued that the company was dominated by people with liberal political and social views. Mr. Damore sued Google, claiming it is biased against white men with conservative views. The matter has been moved to private arbitration. Its status is unclear. Google's parent company, Alphabet, said it had 98,771 employees at the end of 2018. The company declined to provide the number of Google employees, but Google is by far the largest part of the company. Google informed employees about the findings of its latest pay study in January at a meeting called to discuss a memo about cost-cutting proposals that had been leaked publicly. The proposals, reported earlier by Bloomberg, caused an uproar because they included ideas like slowing the pace at which Google promotes workers and eliminating some of its famous perks. At the meeting, Sundar Pichai, Google's chief executive, played down the proposals as the product of brainstorming by members of human resources staff and not things that senior managers were seriously considering, according to a video viewed by New York Times. But in an effort to demonstrate that Google was not skimping on wages, executives said at the meeting that the company had adjusted the pay of more employees than ever before. Ms. Barbolto, who presented the findings, said that more men were underpaid was a surprising trend that we didn't expect. I know. What do you think about this?
Um, I'm pretty sure you have more information about this than I do. Uh,
Hmm.
they it took them a long time to get to the point that it was toward the end of the article that they referenced the title of the article, but the story about the woman who came in at the same, well, at one pay grade, it was like level 3, and others came in at level 4. Uh, I don't doubt that Google done this. It is interesting that they don't, that America is the only country that take records according to racial background. I don't doubt that Google, someone, a manager in Google did this on purpose, not Google as a whole company, but I don't doubt that these things happen. They kept saying similar jobs, not specific same. People got paid less for uh, similar jobs. What that means specifically means in a contextual way, I don't know. But they kept saying that they never said for the exact same thing. They have a lot of employees, uh, and they increase everyone's salary. Now, you get into murky territory when, hey, D, you got a lot of background noise. You get into murky territory when you fire one guy and then he says, well, you're discriminating against me because I'm a conservative. You can't win for losing for no for that. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm pretty sure you have more information that can explain the story than I do.
Yeah, it's interesting because the companies I've worked for, they all have structured pay. So if you come on as a level 1, level 2, everybody gets paid the same. So you really can't negotiate your salary too much. Um, so you might be able to negotiate days off and things like that, but you can't really negotiate um, salary that much with with a structured pay system, especially one that's open to the public, right? So what they have made, what adjustments they have made, is that if you have a master's degree and no experience, then you get the top position, right? You get to apply to the top position. Women tend to have higher levels of education than men do, and what happens here is um, women have a fairer shot at more leadership roles than not. How they know who's getting paid what at Google, right? If that's not transparent, then there's no way for them to know, for a coworker or a person on the same staff, to know what that person's getting paid, because that hasn't been disclosed. It's not transparent like some other companies, especially like the government. The government is pretty structured in that transparent manner where you have step 1, step 2, step 3. Because it's publicly available, right? Because you're a public employee, so all that information is put out there. So it's to my knowledge, you wouldn't know who's negotiating what kind of salary. Plus, um, I know people, like I said, geolocation matters. So if, for example, people in New York are going to make a heck of a lot more than somebody who's in, um, let's say, Mississippi or something like that, or Texas. You're going to get paid a heck of a lot more because the cost of living is much higher. So it's a little different. And that's why you see a lot of the roles usually stay closer to the West Coast than they do to the East Coast, because cost of living is so much higher, and so much you have to compensate the employee a lot more, unless they um, unless they agree to move, and then you might compensate them more for relocation purposes. But most people can do their jobs from home, especially for Google. So there's no real reason to be in the office other than for cultural purposes. Now the piece about the piece that really struck out to me in particular was the part about ethnic minorities, and I think they were really referring to black and brown people, black and maybe you know Latinos, right? So in my experience, um, they have a hard time having diversity because of the employee that they just got rid of, right? That conservative guy, right? That guy who wants to hold on to his traditional. Reagan era sort of political viewpoints, and he wants to bring that into the office. And what happens is when they bring that into the office, they infuse the whole entire environment and poison the environment with their rhetoric. And what happens here is most white people, especially white women, don't want to rock the boat because they don't want to be ostracized from that group. And you don't get the diversity that you're looking for because that sort of person that's mentioned in the article, who's already been fired, he becomes problematic and disruptive. And therefore, when you try to bring on a minority, a black person, in particular, a black male, he's not welcomed into that environment because you've already created this sort of cultural structure that's it's more like a fraternity. And a lot of people will say, well, it's about meritocracy. Meritocracy is one thing, but then when you have um, benign racism inside the workplace, that causes more and more problems. So what happens to a lot of black men is they don't get access to these jobs because they don't have access to these social circles because they're not a part of these social groups. If you came from Chicago or you came from Baltimore or something like that, you may have only gone to community college, or you may have gone on to something like EDX and probably got your education there. You didn't go to the top tier university. Whereas some of these other guys, these white males, their white male counterparts, they go to these top universities. They went to Duke and they went to you know MIT and stuff like that. So they're a part of certain social networks that a lot of black men are not a part of. So therefore, they can't get into these sort of groups because it's being calcified. The opportunities are calcified around white males. So therefore, you have a diversity issue. Um, and the only way to really fix the diversity issue is to get rid of people like that was mentioned in the article. You have to get rid of those people, and because those guys have so much political power in the organization through their own skill set, they can be engineers or level 4 or something like that. It's hard to get rid of them because how do you replace them? Um, I don't know if women have the same exact issue, especially white women, because I find that to be interesting that white women have a problem with these opportunities much more so than let's say a black male, because according to them and according to the statistics, black men only make up less than 2% of the industry, right? So it's interesting that all these people have all these women who allegedly are being paid less. How do they identify this? I mean, we know that black men are being paid less because either ADP, which is the data processing company for paychecks, and then you take into consideration people's IRS statements, right? Maybe you went to H&R Block, maybe you went to some other tax agency, and they probably listed down your criteria, and they said, black, male, certain age range, millennial, Generation X, um, filed his taxes this year. His profession is IT. He lives in Chicago. He only made let's say $59,000 for the year, whereas his white male counterpart in the same Chicago area also works in IT, is a millennial or Generation X, is pulling in $109,000 a year. That's a big difference. It's a big delta there. So the question is, well, how did this happen? Well, a lot of these companies are lowballing, these applicants by posting jobs that are like level 1, but the reality is the work is a lot of level 3, level 4 work. So now you're not being compensated for your work, and that's where the inequities come in. So
That question, you said black men are 2% of Google or 2% of the IT industry?
just the industry,
Okay.
just the industry itself.
Yeah,
The,
go ahead.
no, no, I was just going to say that the reason why they have diversity and inclusion officers in some of these companies is because you don't have enough black men there relative to the demographics in certain areas. California obviously it makes up less than 10% of black people, right? but in the same time, you don't have that represented within that demographic represented in your organization. Well, if you come to Boston, 54% of the population is black and brown people. So it's black and Latinos, and white people are actually make up like 48% or something like that. Well, what happens here is most of the white organizations are 90% white. Of these organizations are actually 90% white. But why is that? Why is the demographic of black people not being represented in these organizations? Because there's an agenda to keep those people out.
Okay. All right. Now
What were you gonna say?
it is interesting in how these women got the information to find out, hey, I was paid less or such and such. Or the woman, she said that another counterpart came in at a level with the same or similar education background. She said she had prior experience with a degree and she was brought in as a level three. But this other guy came in with no experience but with a college degree and was brought in at a level three also. So she felt that
Hmm.
she saw that as pay discrimination or some type of discrimination. And she brought up another um, example. Now, I do agree with you. And when you say that, how did they find all this information out in order to bring it to the forefront? So, yes, it was some office politics going on, some office investigation going on. Yes, that happens in any office situation. But it's sad to hear that we make up such a small percentage of the IT industry.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, what? So let's play devil's advocate for a second. A lot of black people, a lot of black men, in particular, don't have the post-secondary education necessary to apply to some of these roles. Um, and then the other part is the full discrimination all the way, right? So even if he does have the qualifications, he's not being hired, um, which is a shame. So how do you fix a problem like that? Is one, you have to change your community colleges so that there's uh, so that the curriculums reflect the industries that are coming, right? And you have to create a path for those same black men so that they have access to that level of education, so that they have then a springboard leap into a lot of these organizations. The problem is that they're not doing any active recruiting to diversify their staff at all. They're comfortable with having no black people on there, especially black men. That's that's the that's the liberal racism that goes on in IT. Like was mentioned in the article, there's discrimination against white males who are conservative. He's right in that regard that there is a lot of pushback for conservatism. Uh, liberal Liberalism is the dominant culture inside IT, especially Silicon Valley. So there's a lot of, I mean, there's some things I'll talk about offline, but just at the high level, yeah, liberalism is the desired culture inside IT, inside of the technology industry in particular, not just IT, but inside the tech industry itself. So what I'm saying here is that you're a black male and you're competing against a white male counterpart, just like the article says. The woman said, guy with no experience gets hired on as a level three. I've seen this my whole entire career. I've seen guys get hired from Home Depot, Ocean State Job Lot, Best Buy with no skill set at all, and he gets into a job where the black man who has the skill set, who has somewhat of the education and things of that nature, he gets put through one, two, three job interviews before he even gets the role. And if he does get the role, he probably is not getting paid the same amount because um, we don't know the negotiations there, right? So there's a lack of transparency. Let me answer this question in the chat. What are the best what are the best states for blacks to get into IT? Atlanta used to be a big hub, a big tech hub for black people. It used to be called the Black Silicon Valley down here. I don't know what it's like now. I've met a lot of black people from Atlanta when I was in Atlanta working. Yeah, it's definitely dominant down there in terms of the tech sector. Um, I would probably throw in DC as well. DC seems to hire a lot of black people because DC is predominantly black. So the DMV area is pretty strong for tech sector work.
What's going on with DE? What's going on, Wilsonia?
Hey, what's going on?
Going on, brothers? I apologize. I'm just getting me some a little bit of grub. I'm headed to the
Okay.
gym right now, so I'll be using all the information that you guys are spitting as motivational music.
DE, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Just listening in to get a good idea what you guys are discussing.
Okay. Okay. This is actually a really good topic, man. It's interesting to see how they kind of I saw a video this morning talking about for International Women's Day where they were talking about how white men make this much more on the dollar to white women and um how much they make in proximity to black women, but they never mention black men. I just found that to be very interesting that somehow, some way, black men are not included in these discussions, but they're always treated as if um, they're equal to white men. So therefore, black men and white men have the same exact issue. Where they're somehow gobbling up the pie, the pizza. They took all the slices from the pizza and they left a very little for other women. And the reality is that's not the case. Black men are not even dominant in these industries. So when they talk about this, they make it seem as if there's this sort of this big bad black man who's just so overpaid for his work. He's grossly overpaid. Who does he think he is getting all this money? He should share. It should be equal pay. For industries where black men and black women don't even work, right? Black men and white women don't even work. But what they identified was that white women make something like 78 cents on the dollar to white men, and that black women make 60 cents on the dollar to white men. But they don't talk about the inequality between white women and black women. They only focus on that man. So if you take white men out of the picture and you only have to focus on white women and black women, then you get a different discussion. And they don't want to have that discussion. And then if you take black men and you compare them to white women still make more on the dollar than black men do. But they don't want to have that discussion because the inequality is like the article says, it's a radioactive topic.
I don't know if to me the problem is that they don't want to talk about black men because then it's going to affect the equation. There never been a time when black men was brought into the equation in America. They always try to keep black men out. If they're gonna bring in a minority, they'll bring in Chinese people or black women because black women tend to follow where Caucasian, especially the women, go. Wherever a Caucasian woman say or do, the black woman wants to say or do. And
Hmm.
if they're gonna include a black man, it's going to give the black man leverage. The second thing is that black black women will align themselves with Caucasian women when the subject of money or something that feminism, for instance, which is going on now, they will align themselves with the Me Too. You know, they will join with Caucasian women. The Caucasian woman, she has even the Caucasian man is pushing the Caucasian woman. You it seems to be that they are afraid of her. They are trying to make her into an icon. She's like Columbia, the god.
Hmm.
And to bring the black man into the picture is going to cause a disturbance. Because if you look back at the 1960s, when they start talking about the black man as head of the household and how they had to raise him up, everybody got upset.
Hmm.
Everybody got upset. People start jumping in. Even the people who were running the NAACP that brought Martin Luther King in to lead the black people to the promised land, they started getting upset because when the black man steps in, they're going to have to step back because now he's going to become the leader of the black people. He's going to be doing his job, and therefore they allowed him to rise up. Then they're going to have a challenger. They're going to have somebody who's going to say, "Hey, we don't need you because I can think for myself." And that's one of the problems that I see in America. I don't know if you guys see that, but that's something that I see.
Well, you're right. You bring up a very strong point, and I think what happens because we have a global market system. What happens when you start running the numbers and you start seeing that black men are being underpaid in comparison to their white male and white female counterparts. Now that opens up it goes beyond gender inequality. It becomes racial inequality, and that's a discussion that they just can't have because they have to promote America as a brand to say that, oh, we're just so progressive, we're just so, we're just so forward thinking, we're a first world country, we're a superpower. But in reality, you're super racist. But you cover it up by talking about the man, first man on the moon. You talk about all these other industries and things and so on and so forth. It's hard for you to have that discussion because what you're promoting contradicts what's actually happening on the ground, and that's what inequality also plays into, other injustices such as stop and frisk and housing discrimination, um, job discrimination. It just plays into a whole lot of things as to why black men aren't in these arenas, and when they are in these arenas, they're so underrepresented despite their demographics. I don't know what the statistics are for Chicago, but I know in Boston we're 54% black and brown, right? So there's more minorities in Boston than there are white people. But yet, if you go to any of these corporations, whether it's Fidelity or Bank of America, you will see massive amounts of white people in these organizations at high percentage rates, and no one wants to actually have an honest discussion about the real diversity and inclusion. Because now what they've done with this whole diversity topic, they've just said women and minorities. What what happens is that these discussions keep getting hijacked by people who keep making gender about diversity when diversity is about people. People equal diversity. You can't have a city that has 25 different languages spoken, but only have one language spoken in the office. That's crazy. That's not diversity. Someone who decides to use a different bathroom is not diversity. That to me, it's an insult to injury.
Well, one of the things that you got to think about when you talk about diversity is that diversity now doesn't mean what it meant even 1990s. Diversity now means LGBT. It, it,
Oh yes.
it, Diversity has been broken down into the smallest denominator. Are you from um, Saudi Arabia? Or are you from Poland? So it goes very one front. The diversity is to say, well, look, okay, we have black people; those are minority. We have Chinese; that's a minority. We have what, you know, it was by culture. Now
Hmm.
minorities can mean so many different things. You could be handicapped; you're a minority. So you're this. They're really breaking this down. And the other thing is that black men are not a cohesive group. We don't. When we go into the workplace or we go into, if we're gonna play football together, all of us will get together and play against the other team. We all want to play together. But then when we have to do something else together, if we're gonna stand up for rights of our right to do something else, we always talk about how we gotta be inclusive, and that's nobody else does that but us.
Hmm. Hmm. You know what? What we will do is we'll revisit this at the end of the hangout because it's a juicy topic, man. I think I wish we could have had this discussion on BGS's hangout, but we'll definitely have to revisit it because it's something that needs to be discussed. That white men are, and I'm not saying that white men are innocent. I think that this has always been a problem in the tech industry in particular, where white men keep get gobbling up all the opportunities, despite the fact that they may not even be qualified for it. Like the woman said, a person with no experience ends up getting a level 3 role where she comes in with 4 years experience and she just gets a level 3. That's always been a big problem. You know, um, I've seen black men come in who can run circles. I mean, even around me, and I consider myself to be fairly achieved in the industry, and I've seen black men come in and they can run a circle around me. They run circles around the white boys, um, and the white boys get real tight about that. They get really really tight, so they'll sabotage you. I've seen brothers have their cars, their mufflers get stuffed with toilet paper or something like that. Man, I've seen all types of sabotage going on in the industry with against brothers, man. It's a shame that this is how white men really act, or this is how white people really act when they're being fully challenged.
Look, you got it in your field. I'm retired now, and
Hmm.
I am uh, I am when I came to work for the company I was working for in Chicago in 1989. Um, but it happened to me before in Miami. But in Chicago, I went to work in Chicago in 1989, and I was given a job. I'm given a job, and the guy who gave me the job, he I come back and say, look, this is what you need to do. Somebody who did this job before me screwed it up. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at
Hmm.
all the. I used to work on airplanes. I started out in communications and electronics, and we got airplanes that flying around and they got problems and nobody can seem to fix the problem. So they handed me the job and say, hey, look into this. I'm looking at the I'm looking at what is done on the airplane, how they did it, and all that kind of stuff. I find out this huge relay on a DC-10 that's not supposed to be there. Who put it there?
Hmm.
So I go to this guy and say, look, we got a problem. And if the FAA find out about this, your behind is gonna burn. So I go to him and I tell him, and he says, look, okay, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. The airplane can't fly. He wants to fly it. I had to go above his head. He's gonna give the job to somebody else who's gonna sign it off. So I had to go above his head because my name is now on that airplane too. And if something goes wrong with it, guess what?
They calling you.
Yes. And not only
Hmm.
I got myself in trouble, whereas I signed off on something like that already. The airplane flew. When it came back, the guy who did the job didn't get in trouble, and I got in trouble. You see what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
what you're talking about as a black guy, I've seen that so many times. You know, and it happens. That's why you see black people. I'm one of the people who I got in somebody's face in my job on my job, but other black men don't do that. You understand? They see
Hmm.
themselves. They will see themselves as, hey, I'm in this position. I'm making 80,000 a year, and I don't want to lose this job. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want to lose a job. But at the same time, if my name get blacklisted, I can't get hired anywhere else. So you gotta walk that line and that try to balance it because you gotta support your family and all that kind of stuff. So, but we don't have the support. It's not we don't get together as a cohesive unit and say, like how are we gonna do things, and if one of us get attacked or one of us come on some kind of pressure, can we go back to the other guys and talk about it and get solutions from them, or how are we going to deal with this problem? We don't have that. Women have that. Women have that. Caucasian men have that. They call their friend at some law firm, law. You understand what I'm saying? And he will tell them what to do. We don't have some guy we can call a law firm that can tell us, you know what, this is what you do. Don't worry about
Yeah, and you're right about that. In the tech industry, you don't have unions. Like that's a big forbidden no-no, right? Mostly because it's about meritocracy. So if you can perform, you can perform. But the problem is when something does happen, when an incident does happen, like I was mentioning before about the brother who got his tailpipe stuffed with toilet paper or something like that. There's no real place you can go to talk to anyone. And what we've done in my experience, I used to work at most of the big tech corporations in America. The last few years, they've the black men there have created their own sort of internal network, someone you can call on. I was when I used to work. Well, I won't mention where I used to work. There was an African brother who was being chastised by a white superior, and he wasn't the person that was at fault. It was another individual that was at fault, but because he was there, he got chastised for it. So I'm looking from across the room, and I'm like, I could hear the arguing. I could hear the belligerence. So I sent the brother a message through Skype, and I said, let's go outside and have a smoke. I don't even smoke cigarettes. He doesn't smoke either, but he understands where I'm going with this. Let's walk down the street. Let's have a talk. And he was telling me, this white guy thinks he can push me around. He can do this to me. He can do that to me. HR doesn't seem to have a vested interest in protecting black men in the organization, because what happens here is that they can just make up whatever they want about you and say, oh, you came late today. One more your tardiness. You can be fired for it, right? Or they'll make up something like, oh, your break was really 30 minutes and you took 45 minutes, so therefore, you we might have to write you up for this, right? So they'll always find something to undermine you to make it seem like you're the problem, whereas it's really the white male that's the problem. Like this brother, this person that was in for Google, the white male conservative, spouting off. You see these type of guys all through the industry. A lot of conservative males who say the most ridiculous things. They seem to be very, very well protected. But in the case of Google, he got fired. But if he was at any other organization, he would be highly protected. And if you had a complaint as a black male, you would have to leave. They'll find a way to ignore you. Like the brother who worked in the Connecticut Budweiser facility, where he went to HR, he complained about racism, and they did nothing about it, and he came back with a pistol. And he shot the place up. He shot all the people who were involved in harassing him. And he killed himself. That was only a couple of years ago. This type of stuff goes on all the time. Black men's issues get ignored in the workplace, and so we don't get the we don't get the support because we don't get the sort of representation either. And black women don't really help in that regard because they seem to side more with white women than they do with black men. I heard Mr. Research talk about that, but that's something that we'll come back to at the end of the hangout.
Brother, could you repeat the incident that you said a black man came in and he did what? And what state was that in?
That was in Connecticut, the Budweiser facility. So there's a Budweiser facility in Connecticut. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but supposedly he was harassed by white men at work, man, and he complained about racism to HR, and they did nothing about it. So he came back to work with a pistol, and he took them guys out, and he took himself out. It was a famous case a couple of years ago. It was during the Obama administration.
This reminds me, well, it's not exactly, but it reminds me of and I was just watching it when Brother Khalid Muhammad mentioned it. It was the Long Island train where the Jamaican guy just started discriminately shooting. I think he took out 6 people, and obviously he was subsequently found guilty. But again, it reminds me of that situation in particular. I think brothers upstate or up top, the older ones might know about it. Ferguson,
Mm-hmm.
Colin Ferguson, if I'm not mistaken, Colin Ferguson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's it, brother. I can see my time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. I thought Paul Bryant was here, but I guess not. All right, this one is from CryptoBriefing.com. New car wallet allows automatic IOTA payments. German tech security firm has revealed a new vehicle-based wallet that allows cars to automatically purchase fuel or charging services with IOTA tokens. Assessec demonstrated its new car wallet to the public last week, integrated into the vehicle. The wallet interacts automatically with point-of-sale terminals. It can initialize services such as authorizing a battery point to begin charging and pay the amount due directly to the merchant. According to Seven Fuchmuller, a research consultant at Assessec, drivers only need to ensure that the two hardware components are physically close enough to interact. Quote, in the car charging station example, one could simply drive towards the station and plug in the charger, he wrote in the email to Crypto Briefing. Authorization and payments would be automatically done by your car in the background. The car wallet is based on Tango mainnet and uses IOTA tokens to transfer values to merchants. Dominic Shiner, a co-founder of the IOTA Foundation, told Crypto Briefing that the foundation is very excited by the news and the benefits it could bring to the IOTA ecosystem. Companies like Assessec, who are building actual products on top of IOTA, help us to accelerate the adoption and importance of IOTA in the industry and make it easier for companies across industries to capture the value of the offering of IOTA, he said. Asked if any companies or vehicle manufacturers had expressed interest in the technology, Assessec declined to comment. IOTA has focused on bridging the gaps between distributed ledger technology and the growing Internet of Things (IoT) sector. With many appliances automatically sending data to manufacturers and other devices, the Tango is designed to facilitate fast, seamless, and highly scalable machine-to-machine communication and payments. The Tango is a DAG protocol, which users verify prior transactions whenever they send payments. In theory, this makes the network inexpensive and highly scalable, an ideal protocol for the Internet of Things, where machines could potentially exchange thousands of micro payments. I know you're a blockchain guy. What's your take on this?
All right, I'm here. In the past, we read articles where IOTA has been making deals with car manufacturers such as Volvo, Volkswagen. This is necessary with the onset of electrical vehicles and autonomous vehicles. When people get out and charge their vehicles, this is necessary. I'll say this: IOTA is, as the article says, geared toward the Internet of Things, payments in the Internet of Things. With the Internet of Things, you can have two devices talk to each other over the internet. And if two devices talk to each other, they then can transfer monetary value with each other. How is IOTA? IOTA is in a department. That's their why. That's what they're geared towards. So in this scenario, when you drive up to a station and you want to charge your electronic vehicle, the Volkswagen case, the Volkswagen wallet will make that handshake. You pull up, it'll talk to the station. It'll say, "Hey, this car is 25% fully charged." Um, then it'll ask, and I'm just saying how it will go. It could go. It will ask the charging station, "Well, how much do you charge to for 75% to top it up?" Charging station will then talk to the car and say, "This is how much." The wallet will then ask you, "Okay, this is how much." Press yes. It'll say yes, and it'll do that. It's smart. It's a smart transaction. That's the way I see it can go, and it'll eliminate you standing outside, going to the station, saying, "I want 10 on pump 5," things like that. And also, it will tell you how long the ETA is to fully charge. These are smart transactions, smart payments, and I see this as a very big positive for IOTA in the future and the way Internet of Thing transaction can go.
All right. All right, this next one is from Forbes.com. Litecoin is rocketing, boosting Bitcoin and Ethereum. Here's why. Litecoin, currently the world's fifth largest major cryptocurrency by value, has leaped higher today following a steady rise of over the last few days, pushing Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the wider cryptocurrency market higher. The Litecoin price, which is some 85% down from its all-time highs, has risen 17% over the last 24 hours to a year-to-date high of $55. Litecoin began the year at just over $30 per coin. Bitcoin has meanwhile added 3% according to coin market cap data as traders and investors again try to cross the psychological $4,000 mark, with data signaling the long-running Bitcoin bear market could be coming to an end. Ethereum rose almost 8% over the last 24 hours, buoyed by the wider market. Litecoin rally, which has seen some $500 million added to its market capitalization over the last 24-hour period, comes as the crisis hit Venezuela launches a government-sanctioned cryptocurrency remittance service, allowing users to send Bitcoin and Litecoin into the country. People in Venezuela have been struggling against economic collapse and hyperinflation over recent years, with the president Nicolas Maduro clinging on to power despite a U.S.-backed challenge from opposition leader Juan Guaido and international sanctions. The service is designed to, quote, guarantee financial inclusion along with the social protection of the people of Venezuela, though it warns it could be disabled at any time, depending on the availability of the funds in the bolivars. What's your take on Litecoin, Lionel? Because um, I don't see many places that accept Litecoin as a payment. What's the value in your opinion?
Well, Litecoin has, excuse me, always been touted as silver to Bitcoin's gold. It's built off the Bitcoin code. It's whenever an upgrade to Bitcoin's code is implemented, they always do it on Litecoin's first. So it's there as a guinea pig and B, um, like I said, silver to Litecoin's gold. Now the Litecoin Foundation has been partnering, and we covered a few articles. One specific article last year, how they purchased, I believe, 10% of a German bank. Then covered another article where you can use Litecoin to buy Amazon gift cards. Like, I don't see Litecoin going away. During a bear market, we don't see a lot of information released on partnerships with these top tier cryptos. Now, in this case, maybe they said, well, you can trade in Bitcoin, Litecoin, maybe Ethereum, some of the top coins on the market are clones such as Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV. I don't think they dealt with that. I think what they did was did some surface research, saw what was some of the big known cryptocurrencies and said, okay, you can trade in this. Um, like the article said, this pump with Litecoin is mainly probably because what's going on in Venezuela, for them to try to circumvent hyperinflation, to try currency inclusion. The article also said that the transfer remittance company said that it can also stop, which means if it stops, the volume in Litecoin and Bitcoin and the other top tier current like Ethereum, I think that they're trading in, I think those three can drop. On the other hand, it does show that what it can do, what these currencies can do, it can circumvent centralized banking systems. It can circumvent sanctions, and also there's a need, there's a use case. But that's my 2 cents about this. There's also been reports with
Tokens.
local, yeah, two tokens about it. Yeah, that's my 2 tokens about it. And there's always been there was been talk about local bitcoins, the website where you can trade currency fiat for bitcoins. That transactions in Venezuela have been skyrocketing because of what's going on in Venezuela, because of the sanctions, because of they're trying to get around hyperinflation. So they're not everyone is using crypto, but a number of people is using crypto to produce these numbers.
Mhm. All right, this next one is from Bitcoiners. What the Wyoming blockchain laws actually mean. The emphasis in Wyoming is on innovation. In an article for Forbes yesterday, Caitlin Long, blockchain advocate and Wall Street veteran, laid out her vision of what the acts actually mean. It includes special purpose depository institutions, commercial filing system, corporate stock, certificate tokens, digital assets, existing law. The details of each act and how companies and individuals can take advantage of them can be found here. But some of the highlights include applying the same rules to virtual currencies as to money and the creation of fintech sandbox that allows companies to grow without the burden of regulation for up to 3 years. Blockchain companies struggling to get a bank account will be able to access most financial services. This is with the notable exception of loans through the creation of a bank for blockchain companies. The state has also authorized a custodian for large institutions that will recognize direct ownership of digital assets. This is key. This is key since Wyoming's digital asset custodians won't act like traditional security custodians. Investors own their digital assets under a custody bailment, for example, so they simply give up control of their digital assets by using custodian service here, not ownership in long states. The 13 laws together will allow companies to actually progress without being strangled by regulation. They are long term measures to support the growth of blockchain technology and attract capital revenue and jobs to Wyoming. The other states are following Wyoming's lead. According to law, Wyoming is now by far the most advanced jurisdiction in the country. Other states will most likely follow its lead. Some already are, including Colorado and Montana. However, they will be unable to compete. Bitcoin spoke to Andrew Hinks, General Counsel of Athena Blockchain and adjunct professor at NYU Stern School of Business and NY School of Law. Well versed in the subject, Hinks regularly follows the progress that each state is making. He also names and shames those falling behind, as well as recognizing achievements and progress. Um, I want to focus on the initials. You know, special purpose depository institutions, commercial filing system. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, I think you went out for a couple seconds. You
Yeah.
said commercial filing systems, then came back in.
Yeah. What do you think about this, Lino? The 13 laws.
A while ago, Caitlin Long did an interview with Max Kaiser, and she was talking about this and how her aim was to have Montana as the leading state in blockchain and cryptocurrency laws and regulations. As you can see, they're doing it. There's been other articles that have come out that show how Montana is more progressive, even more progressive than California and some of the most liberal states. The
Really?
article, yeah, at the end of the article, it says that California is not following them, but they are releasing more and more regulations on blockchain and cryptocurrencies. But Montana is on the cutting edge of releasing these laws. Um, in the article that I saw with her and Max Kaiser, she was saying how a lot of blockchain startups cannot get loans, bank loans, and that's one of the points that the article pointed out, where it's easier to get bank loans as a blockchain startup in Montana. She sees the future of blockchain and cryptocurrencies, and she wants to make Montana as a leading state in the country for these two technologies. Now, the article did point out how yes, even though the state is progressive, they still succumb to federal laws. On what levels, I don't know. But the article also pointed out how the federal government can adopt a lot of laws that Montana has put on the books pertaining to blockchain and cryptocurrencies. Um, a lot of these lawmakers do not understand blockchain, cryptocurrencies. If they don't understand that, then you talk about autonomous vehicles or these other technologies in the fourth industrial revolution. So they don't understand. So they have to get other people to explain to them, and it seems like she's doing a very good job in that state.
Dope. All right. This next one is from CNBC.com. U.S. households see biggest decline in net worth since the financial crisis. Americans' net worth fell at the highest level since the financial crisis in fourth quarter of 2018, as sliding stock market prices ate into the household balance sheet. Net worth dropped to $104.3 trillion dollars as the year came to an end, a decrease of 3.7 $3.73 trillion dollars from the third quarter, according to figures released Thursday by the Federal Reserve. The fall amounted to a drop of 3.4%. Much of the slide came due to Wall Street's woes, as the stock market suffered a precipitous decline that started in October and briefly reached the bear market status. Equity skidded as investors began to fear that the Fed would keep raising interest rates even as economic conditions began to deteriorate. By the time market dropped, by the time the market drop ended in December, households saw 4.6 trillion dollars worth of equity value deteriorated. The decline was offset somewhat by a 300 billion dollar increase in real estate value. The overall move was the second highest quarterly dollar drop since the Fed began tracking the statistic. Overall financial assets totaled just more than $85 trillion at the end of the year, while real estate value was $29.2 trillion. Household net worth has been rising strongly since the crisis and is up 73% since 2009. After suffering the worst Christmas Eve in history, stocks stocks staged a turnaround and ultimately saw their best 2 month start to years since 1991. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is off about 1.6% in March, through uh, though still up more than 9% year to date. The fall in net worth came during the quarter when GDP rose 2.6%, according to a first estimate. That was part of a year that saw growth near 3% despite a lackluster period for financial markets. Uh, we're way off, from for a recession, a massive recession. So these numbers are just, to me, it's just a drop in the bucket in comparison to what we could actually be running into in the next, few quarters from now. Which is why I've hold off buying my house recently, because I'm anxious to see what happens.
Yeah, you may be able to get that house for whatever house you're looking at for a steep discount, according to what people will say.
Hmm.
Do you got anything to say about this?
I think those. I don't. You have to get other numbers that will kind of back up what they're saying, because I'm looking at the average person. It's in the U.S. 2006. The people who got laid off. You say you had 50 million people lose their employment. These people, when they go back to work, they're not making as much as they used to. So it's there. If they have any investments left in the stock market, um, then these numbers are looking at that stock price, and they're not looking at how much these people are saving now, currently. They don't know how much these people have in their pocket that they can spend. And a lot of people are going into debt with credit cards, and they're not taking that out of the equation. They're just looking at, well, the stock market went up, so whoever has stock, their value went up. And that, you can't really count that, because some people got out of the stock market, never went back in. But the stocks that they had owned is now owned by somebody else. I don't know if you guys get what I'm saying, but
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
something's wrong here, and they're not giving you the full story. They're just trying to give you the news, the you know the economy is doing better story.
Hmm. All right, let me get to this next one from the Wall Street Journal. Philadelphia is the first U.S. city to ban cashless stores. Lawmakers move to maintain access to marketplace for lower income consumers. Amazon and other businesses express concern about limits on innovation. Philadelphia is the first major U.S. city to ban cashless stores, placing it at the forefront of a debate that pits retail innovation against lawmakers trying to protect all citizens' access to the marketplace. Starting in July, Philadelphia's new law will require most retail stores to accept cash. A New York City councilman is pushing similar legislation there, and New Jersey legislation recently passed a bill banning cashless stores statewide. A spokesman for New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, a Democrat, declined to comment. This is very interesting. That means no cryptos being spent in stores. Well, how do you adopt cryptos, and how do you, as a first world nation, how do you adopt cryptos if you have these cashless legislations being put into place for stores, Lino?
Yeah, they're going backwards on this. Um, you you see people here and there that are pushing for regulation, and these are not just regular Joe Schmo people. These are people with and the government pushing for regulations of crypto and Bitcoin. And you have this city that's pretty much banning them, banning a cashless store. We have entire countries such as either Sweden or Norway that are pretty much cashless societies. You have cashless societies now, and they're not tanking or in disarray. These are act this is actual proof that it can work, and you are a first world country, the quote unquote power of the world, and you're doing this. You're acting this is ridiculous. It's like you're acting like oh, you don't understand something, therefore I'm gonna block it. No, this is ridiculous. They're working backwards. In the article said that there's legislators in New York and New Jersey that are pushing for the same thing. Ridiculous. This this is
Well,
this is
they're worried
ridiculous.
about the poor people.
I think that's a cop out. That is a cop out because when things change, people change to people adapt to those. People change and adapt to those changes. Yes, there are some people that don't know what cryptocurrency is, or they may inherit it on and passing on the TV. But that's a lot of people. That's not just poor people. That's middle income people, and there's high income people that don't know what cryptocurrency is. You have to educate the people when they go to the store. They say, "Well, what's this? This is such and such." That's gonna spark a a uh, a want to know. You have to educate people in terms of okay, uh, this is what's going on. If you want to pay this way, yeah. Now in these cash societies, they have not gotten rid of physical money 100%. It's just that they
Mm.
don't use physical money to the same on the same level as digital money. So starting out, obviously, they can say, okay, introduce this new payment system. People will learn about it, and over time, we'll just gradually go to that. Don't just block it because if you do that, you almost guaranteed to fall behind the times, fall behind the trend. And this is very much case in point of people in government positions, in high positions, who don't know what crypto and blockchain is, and or also who are paid by people to keep these legacy payment systems installed. This is proof.
Mhm. See, but the thing is, people already use um, debit-based EBT systems now, right? So that's cashless. What's the big deal? They get a card from the government that has money allocated on it in in the form of digital format. They go to a local bodega or whatever it is that they go to. They slide that government card through that point of sales machine, and there's no cash exchange. So what are they talking about? Poor people being, left behind, lower income people being left behind. Lower income people are already, you know, for all intents and purposes, are already, knee deep in credit card debt, anyways. And for the most part, credit cards are cashless too. So who are these people they trying to protect?
But you know what? I don't think people think of it like that as we do, as people that are in these communities. When we say, "Well, we are already cashless with these credit cards," I I really don't think a number of people don't look at it like that, and the other percentage number of people are just paid by people to say, "Hey, don't allow this," and they just don't understand. They're going to be left behind.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
even
Go ahead, Mike.
go ahead, D.
Let me be the devil's advocate here. Suppose I'm a guy
Definitely.
who I work at Walmart, and I don't get my money directly deposited to account where I got a debit card. So I take my check to the payday loan, get cash, or get a debit card there. Um, the debit card is going to charge me every time I make a transaction. So I use cash instead. Um, where am I going to go to spend my money? What am I going to, when everybody goes cashless? When the stores go cashless, force me to go cashless. If this is like 20 to 30% of the population of the United States, the United States based on what they call everybody who can take money from you will take money from you as not only a nickel or a dime to do something, but if you have $100 and they can take 80 or $100 from you, they will take it from you even if they don't give you anything. That's the way the U.S. works. In other countries, like Norway, Sweden, they might put laws into place that prevent that from happening. They will make you get a checking account. They say, look, your money has to go to a bank, and the bank can't charge you fees if your funds drop below $1,500, as the banks here will do. When these countries do that, it keeps the poor people from being gouged. It's unfettered capitalism here in America, and they fight like hell to be able to take as much money from you as they can anytime they want to.
Oh, I was just gonna say that the parking meters up here actually are cashless too. They take debit card payment.
Yeah, and it's a gradual process from a cash to cashless society. Again, we're not saying this is okay, one day is cash, the next day or next week is cash. It's a gradual process. And it's being implemented all around you already, just like Mike said with the meters. I experienced that in Miami. It was cashless meters. You go, you download the app, and you pay via there. And also, it's also all around you with, like we stated, the credit cards. I don't know too many people who go to the mall and pay for things, me personally, with cash. Yes, you're gonna have those people who just wanna be with cash, but yes, they can still do that. But in the future, it's gonna be a gradual change. And those people
Mhm.
with your devil advocate, DE, those are the lower class. Those are the people who get caught in the payday loan trap. But those are the same people who need to learn and educate themselves, and that's why it needs to be a learning process to graduate to the next level. And they're going to get pulled along the way. They may be the last ones, but they're going to be pulled along.
All right, let me hit this next one here. DailyHodl.com. Breakthrough Utah, the Breakthrough Utah bill will exempt Bitcoin and crypto from money transmitter regulations. A new bill proposes to exempt cryptocurrency related businesses from being classified as money transmitters and attempts to clarify terms related to blockchain. Utah Senate Bill 213 also advocates for the creation of a legislative task force for blockchain technology. SB 213 defines blockchain technology as follows: an electronic method for storing data that is maintained by a consensus of multiple unaffiliated parties, distributed across multiple locations and mathematically verified. The bill says money transmission does not include a blockchain token, according to SB 213. A blockchain token is an electronic record that is recorded on a blockchain and capable of being traded between individuals without an intermediary. Quote, money transmission means the sale or issuance of a payment instrument or engaging in the business of receiving money for transmission or transmitting money within the United States or to locations abroad by any and all means, including payment instrument, wire, facsimile, and electronic transfer. If passed into law, the bill would allow the creation of a 12-member task force which will explore the uses of the technology. The Blockchain Pilot Project Evaluation Task Force will prepare a report with proposed legislation and recommendations before November 30th. It is expected to recommend pilot project for blockchain technology in Utah. According to SB 13, members of the task force will be tapped from private businesses and the blockchain community. In the absence of a clear regulatory framework at the federal level, state lawmakers are moving to introduce meaningful policies that govern cryptocurrencies and blockchain-based businesses. California, Wyoming, New Hampshire, and Ohio are among growing lists of states exploring the use of blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies as a draft legislation to regulate new applications. It's interesting. You, I'm surprised to see New Hampshire's on it because ain't nothing popping in New Hampshire right now as far as I'm concerned. But the federal government should have already had their own blockchain task force in place with the IRS. Like I don't. It just boggles my mind why they're so slow on emerging technology that's eventually going to have to be adopted by your federal bodies anyway. So you might as well create a task force for it. But that's on them. I say kudos to those states that are actually stepping their game up.
Yeah, it seems like they're trying to hold on to the last vestiges of archaic systems, of legacy systems, and they're trying to squeeze the last penny out of these technologies in order to then transfer over. They don't want to leave money on the floor. That's what it seems like. Um, for cryptos to be labeled as a money transmitter shows they don't understand crypto. It's like someone said, hey, there's this new thing, crypto. You can send money from one person to another one. And all of a sudden they thought, well, that's a money transmitter. So they're going to label them as a money transmitter. A lot of these people in government are older. So I don't expect them to jump on a bandwagon like younger people are. But it just shows over and over again where these people lack in understanding. Yeah. And adoption rate is very slow for world power. Very slow.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, D, you sound very, very far away.
Uh, oh, um, I was going to say money transfer is a huge business. I mean, there's so much money made off this system. As I say, um, even the old style of money transfer, where Wells Fargo will drive up and will take $2 billion from a bank, from a central bank in New York, take it to the airport and send it to Germany or Switzerland. That's a lot of people making a lot of money, and some people are not going to give up that money very easily. It's hard to do it when you make money so easily.
Okay, this next one is from CoinDesk.com.
Brother,
BlockFi now offers a crypto deposit. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
excuse me, let me use the gym real quick. Yeah, as a previous brother was saying, man, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, especially when it comes to remittance. I think we've all spoke about that before. I know when I'm sending money either to Haiti or Colombia, I mean, the amount of money that is being that's being taken. Everybody wants theirs, and they're usually getting off the top. And we're not only talking about obviously the big wigs. As many of you guys knows, Zoom is a that's a remittance program that's used by PayPal. Obviously, the big wigs such as Western Unions. Share Money is another smaller one, which give decent rates. But a lot of times we think that we presuppose that it's just the old people who are stuck in their ways, as you mentioned with the legacy, who doesn't want to give it up. But a lot of times we overlook, we overslaw other people, whether it be our contemporaries or anybody else, who's getting, who's getting theirs as well. Just as the brother said, when Wells Fargo transfers, it takes money from was it the central bank of New York, and they send it over to Germany. That's not only the old guys, or as some of these alt right will like to say, the Jews. You're talking about everyday brothers, everyday people. The security guards, the truck drivers, things of that sort. The plane, the security, the international security in regards to that. So everybody's taking wants a piece of that pie, and you have some people who they don't view it. I mean, when they think of automation, how automation or the fourth industrial revolution is going to take jobs. A lot of times they don't even think of services like remittance. That's going to, if you want to talk about old fashioned, man, when I go to West Orlando to send money to Haiti with Com is real big. That's these are not, these are people who obviously technologically speaking are not up to speed. But even if they were, they couldn't do that in Haiti. I mean, again, a lot of people make their money, and a lot of times we don't see the financial aspect when it comes to remittance and how that's going to affect people. Once it's not in my opinion, it's not a question of if, but when this comes to full circle, whether this is going to happen in our lifetime or not. But I mean, a lot of people aren't really prepared for that. That's all. That's it. That's all I wanted to say, dear brothers.
All right. Hey, what are you hitting? Is it back work today, chest work today? What are you hitting?
A little bit of everything. I'll be the first one to admit that I'm not as consistent as I'm supposed to be. But because I fuck with the big girls, Olympic lifts is a staple of my workout. We're talking about snatch, clean and jerk, cleans, power cleans. Obviously, you have the foundations, the deadlifts, the squats. But when you're a big game hunter such as myself, you get me saying. I mean, that back is, that CNS, man, is completely vital. So a little bit of everything today, brother. A little bit of everything, but core, shoulders, and back is something that I'm putting a big emphasis on from this point here on out.
What are you snatching? 40 kilograms?
No. I mean, no. I wish. I mean, I'm doing. Yeah. Matter of fact, 40 kilograms. I'm not including the bar. You get what I'm saying? But even then, I mean, I'm not Chinese level. I'm not Eastern European, Asian level Olympic style lifting. If I could find me a Chinese trainer who don't speak no English with a stick, man, I'd be a beast right now.
Oh, talk to Scholar Chang.
I will. I don't see. I will.
All right, let me get to this next article. This next one is from CoinDesk.com. BlockFi now offers a crypto deposit account with compound interest. Cryptocurrency lending startup BlockFi has launched a crypto deposit account that provides compound interest. Announced on the news on Tuesday, the firm said that the BlockFi interest account (BIA) is now live and offers customers an annual interest rate of 6% paid on a monthly basis in cryptocurrency. That's interesting. That monthly interest is then compounded to produce a 6.2% annual percentage yield, or API. or APY, sorry. Quote, it helps crypto investors grow their wealth with one of the most powerful tools in finance, compound interest. Brad uh, Mickelson, director of marketing at BlockFi, told CoinDesk. Users from across the globe can deposit either Bitcoin or Ethereum to earn interest from the offering and can withdraw their funds at any time, BlockFi said. Account holdings are custodied at the Gemini Trust Company, a co-founder by Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, according to the announcement. Gemini Trust is regulated by the New York Department of Financial Services and also offers insurance coverage for digital assets it holds in custody. While the BIA looks rather like a crypto version of traditional savings account, Mickelson said the coin Mickelson told CoinDesk that the product doesn't come with the backing of the federal government like a savings account at a bank does. The executive further said that BlockFi business also includes providing a crypto loans to institutions it can still afford. It can still afford the interest paid out, even if the prices of Bitcoin and Ether fall. We charge more to the institutions borrowing the crypto from BlockFi than we pay to depositors, Mickelson said. The BIA was first launched in beta version at the start of this year and already holds over $10 million in assets from retail and institutional investors, according to the firm's figures. This is very interesting. What do you think about this, Lino?
Yes, it is interesting. When people put their money into a checking, saving, money market, certificate of deposit, you may get 0.75, or if you catch it on a promotion, 1.3%. This thing is talking about 6.2 cent over the course of a year. 6%, I think it said, per month on your crypto, Bitcoin and Ethereum specifically. And they're backed by the Winklevoss twins, Gemini, which is backed by the financial, the I think it's the FDIC, one of those. So they have backing. They have this is just not something that's that crypto exchange say, oh, we're gonna do this. No, they have backing. This is very interesting, and they already have, I think it said, 50 million and deposited already. So it's tempting. That 6% return is tempting. Anybody else got a comment on this one?
Yeah, where's that 6% coming from?
Well,
I mean, I'm sorry. Continue.
What they said is they give loans to institutions, and the money they charge institutions. You got some background noise there. The money they charge institutions is more than what they pay out to people um, for the interest. So they give out institutional loans, and the interest they receive off that they split to themselves and to people they pay back with the 6%. Now, me personally, it may not stay 6%. It may go down, but if it's still above what you get from your money markets and things like that, you're still doing better.
Okay, because at 6%, I think it's bordering as a common adage. If something sounds too good to be true, then it probably is.
Right.
So
right.
I mean, 6%. That's I can't say. I'm surprised that more people haven't jumped on it. And what I don't want is basically a pension situation, if you will, where you have a company with a bunch of liabilities as far as payouts is concerned based on the interest rates and no way to pay it off. But this is on the presumption that there's some type of default or institutions are not making said repayment. So maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse.
Now
But
they said you're able to get your crypto out anytime you want to.
uh huh.
6% is high. I will be the first to admit that it is high. Now there's another story that's circulating how investors say this isn't good because it can lead to derivatives and rehypothecation, which could suppress the Bitcoin price. They in that article they weren't specifically saying, oh, they can't sustain this. They were just basically saying, well, they were really saying that this can suppress the Bitcoin price. You really can't put holes into what who is backing them. You got Mike Novogratz, which is a huge billionaire investor, and another Morgan Creek, which is an investment firm. They've been receiving investments, like major institutional investments, so they have the record to back them. But like I said, 6%. We'll see. It's good that they say you can retrieve your crypto anytime you want to. They're banking on for you to keep it in there because you're receiving that return or income. We'll see. I haven't heard anything. I think they started this at the beginning of the year. I haven't heard anything, um, any groanings in the cryptoverse saying don't do it or not. So far, they've been working at it.
Yes, sir.
All right, this next one is from Daily Huddle. Again, Venezuelan government supports Bitcoin and Litecoin payments, launches new crypto remittance platform amidst crisis. As political tensions rise to all-time highs, Venezuela is launching a government-sanctioned cryptocurrency remittance service. The platform will allow users to send Bitcoin and Litecoin. The Remisas platform, a new service for the country's Patria platform, is designed to guarantee financial inclusion along with the social protection of the people of Venezuela. Its launch coincides with the country's humanitarian crisis. Venezuelans are suffering daily from U.S. Sanctions, political unrest, violent protests, economic collapse, and hyperinflation as the country's embattled president Nicolas Maduro rejects convoys filled with food and medical aid from the U.S., which recognizes opposition leader Juan Guaido as Venezuela's self-proclaimed interim president. Run by Patria, the new service is controlled by the country's crypto regulator, Superintendency of Crypto Assets and Related Activities, SUNACRYPT, under the leadership of Maduro. It will establish a monthly limit and offer access through its online portal. According to Patria, Remisas, a service of the Patria platform, allows you to send remittances to Venezuela in cryptocurrencies. The resources sent will be available in sovereign bolivars and the Monedero Patria as soon as the transfer is confirmed. The service will apply a fluctuating commission updated daily. Patria also explains that the service may be disabled at any time, depending on the availability of funds in bolivars. Critics point out that users on the popular peer-to-peer platform Local Bitcoins, where trading volumes in Venezuela have reached an all-time high, already have the ability to send Bitcoin and Litecoin at significantly cheaper rate. In February, official Gazette number 4158581 published the country's new crypto regulations, which impose up to 15% fees on crypto remittances transactions. The government also introduced introduced monthly caps on transactions of roughly $600, with an increase to $3,000 if further authorization is granted. Some features of the platform also raise concerns about government-led centralization. Users are expected to record their data on the platform, and receipts of the cryptocurrency may be notified through a text message. The Central Bank of Venezuela could play a significant role in determining prices of cryptocurrencies on the platform.
Yeah, so this is the second part of that article with the Litecoin skyrocketing, and they say here's why. It's because of this. Then we talked about how Venezuela is it's a state. It was a government sanctioned remittances service that they put that they established where people can send money to Venezuela via Bitcoin, Ethereum. Now the thing with this is you have to pay 15% on that transfer. That's high. An article I want to well I can make some articles so we because we read it. I don't know if it was this one or the last one that said people using the local bitcoins website paid less, way less than the 15%. So it's like, yeah, Venezuela did a good thing in terms of allowing people to use crypto to circumvent all these sanctions and tariffs. Dot dot dot. But they're taxing you for doing it. And it's centralized, the article points out, because you have to go through the government to get your money. You have to go through the government, a centralized entity, to get a decentralized uh, entity, well, currency. So that they know who's sending it, well, who's receiving it. They don't know who's sending it. And then they said you'll receive a text message uh, on your phone when you receive money, and then the price has to be correct because they put a cap on what $600 a month. So if someone's sending you $587, and you say, "Well, they sent you $575," I don't know what will happen. Yeah. This is like I said, in my opinion, they made a good decision in terms of allowing people to receive cryptocurrencies, but then it's Western Union all over again.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I dropped out there for a second, so
yeah. I was just saying, no, yeah, it's good on the one hand, but they're charging people a lot of money to receive their money when people that are using local bitcoins are doing it cheaper and without the government.
What I want to know is the 15%, is it still cheaper than going through conventional means of remittance?
I don't know what they charge for their conventional means of remittances. I don't have any thing to compare to. Their currency is going through hyperinflation, so whatever money I can't say whatever money they get, they're quickly to spend it because they don't want to lose the value once they get that money. But in terms of other ways they've been getting their money, I don't know. In terms of remittances, I don't know what um, the tax percentage is. Well, how much the government's taking off the top with the local bitcoins thing? It's not 15%. What you mainly you may someone may want, like, let's say you got $100 worth of Bitcoin, you may sell it for $105. It's not nothing exorbitant.
all right, this one is from mbcrypto.com. Breaking: Fidelity announces Bitcoin beat custody service live with select group of eligible clients. Fidelity Digital Assets, a digital asset solution branch of the largest asset management firm, Fidelity Investments, announced that it is announced that its Bitcoin custody service has gone live with a select group of eligible clients. Earlier today, on their official Twitter handle, the firm aiming at providing custodial services to institutional investors first made an announcement regarding this news in late January. Here, they stated that the here they stated that have selected. Yeah, that's grammatically wrong. They stated that have selected clients to whom they will be serving their initial solutions. The solution provided stated that they have built a stronger technical and operational standards best suitable for institutions meeting clients' expectations from an investment giant in their initial announcement. They had also stated that their initial clients are, quote, an important part of the financial testing and process refinement periods. This, in turn, would help the Fidelity provide services to a broader set of eligible institutions. This comes from a euphoric announcement to several members of the community as it marks one of the first steps taken to the cryptocurrency market, especially Bitcoin market, for institutional investors. This is mainly because of the custody solutions and trading venue platform provided by the financial giant. More so, some of some also believe that the changes brought by institutional players of Fidelity would shed some light in the regulatory stance on Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. I know you sent this in, so what do you think about this?
This is big in terms of adoption. You have Fidelity, which is, I believe, the largest asset management firm. They hold a couple $1 trillion. Trillion is 1 trillion, if I'm not mistaken, is a million. So let's say I think they hold about 3 trillion. So they hold what 3 million millions. It's some ridiculous number. It take 1,000 billions just equals 1 trillion. This company has a lot of money, bottom line, and they are a custody solution, which means people who purchase cryptocurrencies with them, they don't have to keep them on their computers, in a wallet, on their phone, cold storage. They can keep them through Fidelity. Now they said that they're onboarding their preferred investors, meaning you have to be you have to have some money in order for you to be uh say one of the first ones to take advantage of this. They're going to roll it out to regular us normals in the future. But this is good, a great long step in adoption for cryptocurrencies. No investment, no company will go into something if they don't think they can't make no money. They're not going in this to say, well, we're going to hold it for a couple months and then drop it. No, this is long term. They are a wealth building platform. Wealth take time. Well, you build wealth over time. You don't build wealth in 12 minutes or 12 months or 72 months. No, it's over time. And the people who are getting into this, they're probably been told, well, Bitcoin going to go up. Last time it went up was 20,000, and it's going to go up past that. It's now such and such. People are in this to make money. So people have been saying, I think the article stated that also, because Fidelity is in it, maybe they will push regulations also. But this is a thumbs up in my book.
Okay, so that's the end of the docket. What I wanted to get back to was this whole entire wage inequality that's been discussed on the New York Times about Google. We discussed this earlier in the hangout, but we said we were going to return back to it. So let's return back to it. Um, here's some of the things that's pondered my mind and some of my experience as well. Um, when I was doing undergrad, I think we had like a class of 24 or 23 people, and I think out of that entire class there was only 4 women. Two had already dropped out by second semester, and I think we ended up having a transfer, so we ended up graduating with 3. So with that being said, women in that level of the tech industry, their numbers represent their enrollment. So there's this idea that there's not enough women in the industry in places like Google and whatnot. But the reality is, if you look at the classrooms, you'll start to see that even at the base level, women are not enrolling. So if there is going to be some form of inequality, it's usually with the enrollment and not so much with the pay. You don't really know how much a person's getting paid unless you're looking at their check stub or you're in the negotiation process with HR. So I'm curious to know how they're figuring all this out, unless there's some kind of transparent structural salary system in place. If that's not in place, then how do you know who's getting paid what? I think it's a bit dubious to present this concept, um, this argument that women are being underpaid in comparison to their male counterpart if they don't know what the salary of that person is. Hey, what's going on, Paul Bryant?
My bad. I was muted. I understand what you're saying because people's pay must be secret. You know, you can't broadcast. Well, this person gets paid this person gets paid that. The only way you can find that out is if you ask a person or you have an inside person that says, "Hey, uh, you know, this person is getting paid more than you, and they do the same work, or you make or you do more work than them." You know, so office politics. From what I understand, that is not illegal, but close to illegal. Is very much frowned upon. So this is a murky. Yeah, it's pretty murky. And even if you win, you still have mud on your feet.
Yeah, absolutely. Because women have the momentum now in the workplace. But when it comes to black men, because they talk about diversity, and I always say that diversity has to do more with people than it does have to do with gender. Um, black men are very much underrepresented in these areas because of institutional discrimination. So that's why you have these diversity and inclusion officers now being put out in these organizations, to increase their diversity and this, and that. You wouldn't have these people in place, or you wouldn't have this role in place if you didn't have discrimination in your hiring practices. The fact that you have a diversity and inclusion officer in place in your organization is a sign that you have a problem with your hiring process. But instead of admitting that you have institutional racism in your organization, you're pretending that it's not really there, and yet you're making a concerted effort by having this diversity and inclusion officer. Not that I have a problem with diversity and inclusion officers, but I have a problem when you don't admit that you have a structural racism problem in your organization. And the only real way to fix that is to break up these white groups who, um, these white clusters in your organization, because racism is a group dynamic, and in order for it to be effective, you need as many white people as possible to partake in this endeavor. Once you break up those white groups, then what happens is it's no longer effective anymore. This is typically why, um, if you see a white person in a predominantly black area, in places like D.C., they don't have any leverage there. They cannot exercise their microaggressions. There's no way for there's no it's not effective. Is what I'm saying. Them getting angry and clapping their hands and grinding their teeth, that doesn't really work, and they can't get their way like that. Um, because typically when you are in a predominantly white setting, then what happens here is there's a lot of micro management of that black person, especially that black male. And what happens with that black man is that he ends up being um, over policed in his own organization. So every little thing that he does, whether he's going to get a drink from the water fountain, or he goes to the bathroom a few times or something like that, or even if he's on his cell phone. I've been in places where a brother was on his cell phone because his wife was pregnant, and he was a few hundred miles away. He wanted to make sure he kept in constant contact with her every 90 minutes to every 2 hours. And there was people who had a problem with that. A lot of pale skinned people, men who had a problem with this brother being on the phone, despite the fact he was still getting his job done. Just the fact that he was on his phone really irked them. But it's fine for them to pull out their cell phone and play League of Legends. They can play League of Legends. They can go look up, you know, all types of Reddit articles and things like that. And no one's, you're not allowed to question him. But the brother who's doing exactly what he's supposed to do, who earned his part and earned his keep, suddenly he's a bad guy. Nate in the chat says, assuming they accounted for the same job, brothers make less than two demographics of women. Yeah, that's true. I mean, they discussed that this week. White women make 79 cents on the dollar, and black women make something like 63 cents on the dollar. Well, black men make far less than that. But see, no one's having that conversation because black men don't count, right? It's always about white men, white women, black women. And black women are supposed to represent this demographic that says of importance, right? This idea that you know black women aren't getting have unequal pay because of white men, but in reality, black women are unequal to white women. As I was saying earlier, white women make more on the dollar than black women do, but you don't see any sort of outrage about that, right? That's the typical social structure that's working just fine because white women are supposed to be better than black women, right? If you take away the white male and you take away the black male, then who where's the inequality there, right? There's inequality in between not the genders but the races. But racism is over. We have Obama now. Obama was elected in 2008. Everything's just fine now. There's no such thing as racism. It's this gender inequality, and I think that becomes a very divisive topic because okay, so what do you say about Asian women now? I mean, are Asian women also underrepresented? I don't get why the black woman is the spokesperson for all women of color, but when it comes to white women, then all of a sudden now, um, there's a big issue because of inequality. But white women make up 83.5% of affirmative action recipients. How is this possible, right? How can white women make up 83% of affirmative action recipients, but still complain about inequality in pay?
Because it's all social engineering, Mike. Because while everyone talks about these issues, all right, no one looks at the haves and the have-nots. No one looks at the wealthy versus the rest of us, okay? Because whenever I say at the end of the day, ultimately, even with everything that you said, and in no way denying anything that's in place, ultimately, ultimately, it's really not even about skin color. It's about power and control. Whoever is in power wants to stay in power. And if you and if you can put yourself into a position of power, your skin color and ethnicity and background no longer matters. But the social engineering construct is there has to be methods of control. Okay. But to separate that from everything what's right in front of people's faces is extremely difficult.
Hmm.
And I get that. I understand that. When you tell people it's not really about what you can see and touch every day, it's about the higher concept behind all of that. People are unwilling to see that and accept that. And what I'm saying is everything that you've just discussed realistically is yet another permutation of something that's been happening for the past 200 to 300 years in this country: social engineering, the few maintaining power over the many. Because at behind closed doors, at the very highest levels and the highest levels of power, it literally does not matter what you look like or where you come from. If you have power, if you're in those circles, that's all they care about. And ultimately, once you're in those circles, in those cabals, basically you join that too because you will do whatever you can to maintain power. That's human nature. But um, maybe that viewpoint is too extreme for many. So maybe I should just leave that alone.
No, I don't think it's too extreme, but I do think that when we're talking about the tech industry and its inequality, um, see, I think this inequality thing really came up over the last few years because of some companies were toting this idea that they have this or they have all this diversity. I think it might have been Quicken or Quicken Loans or something like that. One of these organizations that made this big transitional shift to try to adopt a more startup style culture. And I think Quicken or another company was rated as being the number one most diverse um, organization in terms of technology. So they have all of these non-white people in their organization, and that they I think it was like Red Mound magazine or CIO magazine had rated them like number one for like 2 or 3 years in a row. And many of these other companies want to be on that same cover of these big magazines and stuff like that. So now everybody's rushing to go out and have these diversity and inclusion officers come in and actually help diversify their organization, but they're not taking into consideration the magnitude of racism that is inside their organization. Really um, they haven't really taken account for all of these things. So while you went out and you recruited all of these black people from these HBCUs, you hadn't really changed these same racist people that are in your organization. So now you have so what you've had the last maybe 10 or 15 years in IT is you've had nepotism. As I was saying earlier, I mean, you wasn't here before, but I was saying this earlier that I've seen guys coming from Home Depot, Best Buy, Walmart, and get trained on the job in IT for roles that they were never qualified for. Meanwhile, black men who are well qualified for these positions are not even being called back. There was an experiment done on LinkedIn where they set up two profiles that were very similar to each other and put white person's a white male's image on the LinkedIn profile, and then on the other profile they put a black male's image on it. The white man's image, profile, LinkedIn profile, got twice as many hits as the black man's profile, despite the fact it was the same, and these were fictional people. So what happens um, in the hiring practice is that they're purposely seeking white males even if the white male is not even qualified for it, they're more willing to give the white male an opportunity than the black male. And then what happens when these statistics come out and they say, oh, well, this company is not as diverse as this one. You have these reactionary leadership people in leadership that go out and say, well, let's include more black people. Let's go to a HBCU and go hire those guys. Well, see, now you're going to a HBCU. You're going to Morehouse. That's a actual top tier university for black men. But when you go do your recruiting for your white males, you're going out there and you're recruiting from the bottom.
Okay, now my question is this: given what you just said,
Hmm.
because how would you see addressing that from the standpoint of a black person? I personally am of the opinion of removing oneself from the situation as much as possible, insulating oneself, and in the process of doing so, looking elsewhere to create your own opportunity, to create your own business, to create your own paths.
Hmm.
That's my mindset. That's what I've done. That's what I do.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that's for every person. I'm saying that that's what has worked for me, because I've seen several comments this evening which I'd like to address, but you know, I question. I'd like to question, the idea of just returning fire for fire. I don't necessarily think that that's. I personally, I think that's counterproductive. But what are your thoughts?
You're right that we should carve out our own spaces as black people in terms of the tech industry. I think what happens is that a lot of your um, there's what they have perceived risk, and those black people that would potentially be able to start their own company, they don't get the same access to financial resources. And plus, you're just coming out of college, you're looking for an opportunity, and unfortunately, you have to go. You have in the tech industry, you have to kind of walk that mile.
Mm.
Um, and so, getting that experience, whether it's through an internship or externship or your entry level job, actually is beneficial because it allows you to build networks, especially if you're coming from if you're transitioning from one career to another into IT, or you're coming from a Division 4 school where they may have not had a social network in place, getting into those into those entry level positions are actually beneficial. Uh, I was fortunate enough to be in the industry to go to a school that actually had a very great social network where we can actually have our own sort of brain trust. Um, where I had people that work for Cisco, people who work for HP, people who work for DEC and those other companies, tier one companies. They were actually good mentors and actually had good referrals. But when you're a black male and you're coming from the outside into these predominantly white areas, um, that can be that can be an upward battle. I think
It,
that the HBCU should do more, and they are doing more now. But they back in 2005, 2004, they weren't really doing anything like that. Stanford and Harvard and MIT. If you look at their their launch pads and their platforms, I mean, it's amazing to some of the stuff that they do. But when you're not white, you're left out in the cold, and that really hurts a lot of black people going in, especially black men, because now you're being told that you're not qualified for a role that some white male who's not qualified for the role is getting that role over you, and he's making buku bucks, and it's not fair. That's just not it's not a fair hiring practice, and it's disingenuous for these companies to come out here and talk about their quarterly earnings and how great of diversity they have because they have more quote unquote women on the staff, and then when you have articles like this come out about pay inequality, and like the woman said, she has 4 years of experience and she gets put into a level 3 role, and this other white male comes in with no experience and he gets put into a level 3 role, same role as her. There's something wrong here.
I, I, sorry. I agree with you totally.
Hmm.
I agree with you completely. But I'm sorry. I agree with you totally. I would like to add, not but. I would like to add to that. I I see that a lot of black people in this instance will attack what they see as a perceived system, and I try to suggest an alternate approach using that very same system and going into that system to gain experience and knowledge, and then you can then leverage that experience and knowledge to your own benefit. See, it's one thing to say, oh, the system is stacked against us and it's unfair, which it is. Not going to deny that at all. But by the very same token, um, short of creating your own system and your own ecosystem, for lack of a better term, it would seem to me it would behoove one to go into that system, get your experience, make your contacts with other like-minded people, and then leverage your gained knowledge and mitigate risks and begin to do things along those lines. Again, that's what I've done. That's what people who I engage with on a business level have done. Not saying it's the best way, not saying it's what everyone should do, but just it just seems to me that the rhetoric behind the abject resistance towards anything perceived as white and a system seems to be counterproductive to the message of, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that. Fine, sounds great. How do you plan to achieve said goals? And again,
Yeah.
just questions, Mike.
No, no, no. Yeah, I think it's good questions, but Nisby has done a great job at creating that social network, right? So they've done many strides since like 2008, probably. I would say they've done major strides, especially now, because they've done a lot more now than what was going on, 10 to 12 years ago. So that area of concern is being taken care of. I have brought up certain concerns of I'm not a big fan of tokenizing black people and putting them in these predominantly white organizations. I think that is I think that's counterproductive. You're not really addressing the core issue of racism. The companies that do have true diversity don't have these issues. So excuse me, it has become more of a political tool now to say, oh, well, we have this many African Americans now, we have this many Indians now, we have this. They check boxing people into these areas, but they still have not addressed the core issue of racism, white racism for that matter, because whenever we have areas where there's true diversity, where there's more than one common language spoken, whether you have Indian people there, you have Pakistanis and Syrians and Iranians and things of that nature, and Russians and stuff like that. There's very little conflict in my experience. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, if you start adding too many different cultures, you tend to have conflict, with different cultures. That's bullshit. I call bullshit. I have never seen that before. I mean, you have different linguistics. There's different dialects and things like that. So sometimes it's hard to understand people, but people still get their work done. So I'm not sure where this whole idea is that this whole pushback of, well, when it's too much diversity, there's too many different cultures and stuff like that. There's a lot of headbutting going on and there's a lot of resistance. No, I have never seen that before. Half of my staff was in Russia, and we got along just fine. So I'm trying to figure out what the pushback is. I think. Just give me 10 seconds.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think the pushback is there is a class or a caste, hard caste in place that says black people should be at the bottom and they shouldn't even have access to these jobs, these opportunities. And we're going to do whatever we can. And you bringing in diversity means you're taking from white people and you're giving it to somebody else, when in reality that these black people, especially these black men, were well qualified for these jobs, and you just don't want to share because you feel that these people should never have anything, but you want to tell everybody else that you're just not a racist. You just like the things the way they were. Make America great again. MAGA and all these other things. So go ahead, Paul.
Mike, I agree with you 100% on what you just said. I I agree with you. I cannot provide any counterpoint, nor will I ever provide any counterpoint to what you just said. I have seen that and experienced that my entire life, from every level of my life, from school to professional to my current profession to businesses. Brother, I am in 100% lockstep with you on what you just said. Um, I will say this.
Mhm.
I will say this, and again, this comes down to mindset. This comes down to mindset. I used to be of a certain mindset of things. I'm no longer of a certain mindset on those issues that you just raised. My my mindset on those issues is okay. No, you're right. 100% correct. 100% accurate. My mindset is okay, fine. You know what I'm going to do? I am going to go ahead and create my own and go my own way and do my own thing and create business for any of those around me who are of the same mindset. For those who are not, they will not be. Again, that's my mindset. And I'm not suggesting that there's something that people need to run out and do, black people need to run out and do. Because the fact of the matter is, most black people are not of my mindset. And I get that. I understand that. All I'm saying is, I like to suggest an alternate approach. Look
Yeah,
at it, think about it. This is something that clearly works for some people who take it. You can keep doing anything else that's currently being done, but because my mindset is, oh, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna fight and push back and yell and scream. You know what? I'm just gonna go about and do what I have to do and be extremely successful at what I do. Again, just another option is all I'm saying. All I'm saying.
yeah, I agree with you. So the alternative that I've suggested last year was that we should start leveraging public libraries as tech incubator spots because they're publicly funded and they're in predominantly black areas.
Awesome.
Um,
Awesome idea. Awesome.
and what we can do with this added space, turning them into tech incubators, is
Mm.
we can have um, the money that would have been otherwise allocated for a basketball court or something like that. When I found out how much money was spent on a playground that only gets utilized once or twice a week, I said this is a ripoff to taxpayers. They're
Mm.
spending $450,000 on a playground that only gets utilized out of a 12-hour day, maybe 2 or 3 hours. I said this is a ripoff. You could That $450,000 could be put into startups in these communities, and you wouldn't have to worry about sorry, let me rephrase that. $450,000 that could be put into black social enterprises. And for those who don't know what a social enterprise is, a social enterprise is a business that focuses on social impact in their neighborhoods or of their local areas, while still capitalizing on the social impact itself. So so social enterprise would be like a business that found a problem, right? So let's say a company um, that wanted to create a trash can, a specific trash can that that had a wireless device connected to it, an IoT based trash can that made a that sent out a text message to city workers to come pick up the trash because the trash was full in certain areas. One of the biggest problems that they had in some of these black areas that there was trash everywhere. Well, there was trash everywhere because there was no trash cans, and the government, the local officials couldn't understand that. They thought that people were just messy. No, there just wasn't any trash cans. So the idea was to put trash cans in place, and when they did that, the trash was never being picked up. It was only being picked up twice a week. Well, that trash gets folded up in the same day. So what's the point in having trash cans if they're not going to be picked up?
You know, I'll say this. I understand where that mindset comes from, and I'll tell you, just follow me.
Mhm.
That started at Disney World. Disney World did a study, and they found by reducing the number of trash cans, the park was cleaner because people didn't have ready or convenient access to trash cans. Instead of just being messy and leaving them places, people would hold on to their garbage until they did find a garbage can and then deposited their trash in proper receptacles. Now, I do not see how the largest amusement park in the world translates to a residential environment. I don't see that. I can't wrap my head around that. But that's where that mindset comes from. And I can say from living here in the largest city in America, in every neighborhood, and even in Midtown Manhattan, you can barely find um, New York City Department of Sanitation trash cans anymore. But that's where that mindset comes from. And Mike, to me, it's BS. Okay, I understand that it worked at Disney World. I understand where that is where that study uh, came from.
Mhm.
But to think that that would somehow translate to residential neighborhoods baffles me.
Mhm. Right. So they had all this trash blowing all over the place, and someone came up with a concept of a IoT based trash can,
Hmm.
and it actually worked. Um, and what happened was, the trash got picked up more frequently. There was less trash in the neighborhood, so there was less need for street sweepers to come around.
Right.
So you think about something like this, now you're talking about a black social enterprise business that partners with the government, and the government pays these black social enterprises as a startup, and there you go. Now you just created an industry for yourself,
Well,
right? And that's how you kind of fix this whole entire diversity and inclusion issue in most of these big tech companies, because if the tech companies really cared that much, and I suspect that I suspect it's not the tech company itself, it's not the brick and mortar institution itself, but it's the leadership that does not have that is completely disconnected from any sort of culture. They're a very checkbox sort of organization where uh, do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have this? Do you have that? Like that's how they kind of do their hiring practice, and that doesn't really work in anymore in this society, in this sort of transitionist sort of society. It can't fundamentally sustain itself because it has no scalability.
well,
You know,
Mike. I'll say this because what I'm about to say, I think speaks to much much deeper issues that a lot of people just refuse to address.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, there are a lot of people on every side of the fence who make a tremendous amount of money on the current sad state and current disposition of black people in America. Okay. And anyone who does not think the current situation of black people in America is a sad state is fooling themselves. With that said, there are a lot of people of all ethnicities and hues who make a tremendous amount of money on maintaining this current sad state of black people in America. Therefore, anything that will change that, that will upset that revenue stream, they stand to lose a lot, and they will do anything in their power to prevent that from happening. With all of that said, with all of that said, as I just said, current sad state of black people in America. So there is a phrase, and we've all heard it. The first step in healing and addiction recovery is to admit. So one, there needs to be an admission. Things need to change from within. Number one. Number two, you need to understand that there are so many people and institutions who stand to lose a tremendous amount of money when those internal cultural changes happen. Okay, so let's. I'm a person. I'm all about where does the rubber meet the road. Okay, so with all the talk and all the intellectual debate, boom, that's where the rubber meets the road.
you
Somebody
know,
else is going to jump in.
Yeah,
yeah. Hey,
I'm
what's up,
done,
bro?
gentlemen. Actually, I'm probably going to be here maybe 5-10 more minutes. I have a lot of business. I have a lot of business meetings tomorrow. I have to get up early, so I'm off in about 5 to 10 more minutes.
Hey, no problem, brother. Go ahead.
Cool. Me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was just gonna go ahead and make it plain. Like, I don't buy it. I buy into this, into this thing as far as diversity inclusion thing the same way I buy it. I mean, it sounds the same thing like a female argument when they say they need to have more women representation, this thing and that, and that right ever, more women need to be on the board, more women need to be hired, they need to be more inclusive, this, that, and whatever. If they're kind of shunning better people because of their color, because of their race, I say if that's the case, go ahead and prove it. Break away. Start something competitive, compete with them, and put them out of business. If better people, better qualified people, people who are smarter, people who are more innovative, are being shunned because of their color, prove it. Start something else to compete with them and put them out of business. Why is that so hard? Why is that impossible? Because if it's happening in technology, that means it's also happening in finance. So there's a finance guy who can get the capital, who can get the investors, that can get the money to go ahead and put up to start something to go ahead and compete with these guys. Why are people always pushing to be included in someone else's shit? If you're smart and better than them, then start something to put them. Go ahead.
No, it's not so much about whether or not a competition or anything like that. It has the discussion really goes back to why Silicon Valley has so many white males and so many Asian males, as the article was referring to. And you say you call BS on it, but that's not. It's not 100% off, because I'm in the tech industry, so I know what they're talking about. It is a predominantly white male space, even if white males are not qualified for their positions. A lot of the downfall in a lot of these companies is due to incompetence at the top. A lot of these men who are in these roles should not be in these roles. Should never have gotten into these roles, right? So what I'm saying here is the question is, you've had a quote unquote black president, you've had black governors, you've had black mayors and black city officials. Why is that demographic not being represented in the tech space?
Okay, Mike. Why?
So what I'm saying here is, the conversation came out of those, of the political advancements of black people. Why is that still not being represented there? So when these companies started doing tallies on their diversity, quote unquote, to speak, they started looking and saying, well, maybe we should start going to HBCUs and start recruiting people.
Because I mean, again, the phrase that isn't going to come to mind right quick. But you don't have diversity in the nursing field. You don't have diversity in the wildfire fighting field. You know what I'm saying? Who fights wildfires? Do you see a bunch of black men there? Do you see a bunch of black women there, or white women there? Who's makes up a majority of the nurses in the nursing field? I mean, you have fields that are overrepresented by a certain demographic, but just because that doesn't mean that there's something sinister going on. If there's something sinister going on, there are laws on the books, and there are plenty of lawyers who've got nothing else better to do.
Preem, I don't mean to go ahead and Preem, but here in the Northeast, in every Northeast state, nursing is predominantly black. It's not white. Just so you know.
Females, right? Females.
Predominantly black, not white.
Females, right?
Who make six-figure salaries.
Females, right? Yes, I know. I've known several of them. I've dated some of them. Females, right? Okay. Females. So, and who fights wildfires? Males. Who gets on a fire truck? Males.
Preem. That's not the argument. So the argument is, you have companies who exist in certain areas that that may be majority minority, but that minority is not being represented in the organization.
They don't.
So the question is how
they don't have to be. They don't have to be.
Actually, they should be.
No, they don't. Why?
Because what happens when you only have a monolithic mindset in your organization, you don't have scalability. That's a big problem in the tech industry.
bro. But
Microsoft figured this out years ago before they started making the Surface. It wasn't until they started bringing in more diversity that you started seeing more hardware kick off. Because if you go back to early versions of Microsoft in 2001, 2002, and they were trying to compete with Apple, they couldn't compete. One of the things they found out was that they don't have the diversity mindset in place. Apple, from my understanding, is a fairly diverse place now. And what came out of that diversity was more inventions and more innovation. So what happens when these companies only have a monolithic mindset of people, whether it's just white males who think one certain type of way, they don't get this. They don't get the sort of audience. Their audience or their customer base is predominantly black or predominantly non-white, so they're not able to engage their customers.
No, but Mike, color has nothing to do with innovation.
Culture.
Yeah, color has nothing to go ahead and do with innovation. If you want innovation, if you want a new idea, a new thing, a new widget, a new this, a new that, whoever comes up with it comes up with it. If they happen to be yellow, they happen to be yellow. If they're black, they're black. If they're blue, they're blue. If they're white, they're white. Whatever. But what happens in this argument is people are saying, put this thing first, and then the innovation is going to come out of that. You don't. No. That's not how. That's not.
That's not what's being presented. We haven't gotten to that point yet. What I'm saying here is, and you can go back and reread the article. The problem is that there is a mindset inside these organizations that does not allow scalability.
You don't know that.
Of course you do. If you're in this industry, you understand that. That's what these articles are pointing out. There's a mindset that goes in with these organizations. It's almost like a fraternity.
But people are assuming that based on the makeup of the people in those industries. And what I was saying when I was talking about nursing or wildfire fighting is that do these same mindsets, then that would mean those same mindsets exist in other industries to where there's an overrepresentation of just one singular demographic, but you never hear that there.
Let's take Elizabeth Warren's comment about Boston recently.
Oh, geez.
Right, and I'm no supporter of Elizabeth Warren. What I'm saying here is she identified that the wealth gap between blacks and whites in the same city is so astronomical, it's impossible not to identify that there is structural racism in place. And the reason why black people's income is so much lower is because black people don't have access to the same job opportunity.
It doesn't matter.
This is done on purpose. What I'm saying is done on purpose.
No, it's not.
Of course they did an experiment on LinkedIn and showed that if you use a white male's profile, a profile with similar characteristics, and change the profile image, they found out that the white male got twice as many hits, despite the fact it was the same as the black male's profile. What exactly is the problem?
Listen, which one is it? Inequity does not equal inequality. Okay, there will be inequity. That's not foul. That doesn't mean someone or something ran afoul because you found inequity. Inequity is going to exist. There's nothing wrong with it. It is what it is.
So
even allow me to make this one other point. The whole thing as far as qualified people. And someone made the statement earlier. Okay, someone shows up, and I mean, I can say as a matter of fact that just because someone has a degree or a certificate and has so many years experience doesn't mean that they may be a better qualified candidate from the job than someone who just came out of whatever certification body who doesn't have the experience. There are things that are intangible that you can't see or find on a piece of paper to where this new buck or this new person, whatever color he, she, whatever may be a better qualified candidate for this position or a better option or a better hire than someone who has tenure. This person just may be a non-energetic, just downtrodden, go along to get along, lazy ass. And I don't want him.
How do you quantify that?
Someone is gonna because you have a sixth sense because you can sense it, you can see it, you
No,
know
you have
it,
to
you
quantify.
know it, you
You
know
have
it.
to quantify that. You have to quantify
No,
that in some form of way. You have to
is that
quantify
is
that
that
a
is that
person
right?
a person who does not have the
Mm-mm.
academic and certification background is going to be better than the person who already has that experience, which is what the article is pointing out. There has to be some form of measure that you're going by to determine.
I can tell, I can see, I can sense that this person is a slacker. On paper, they qualify for an interview or they qualify to get hired. And Dollar Will and Plex had this discussion extended 2 weeks ago or whatever, but they may qualify on paper. But there's some intangibles that you can't tell on paper until you interview someone, until you go ahead and get them in your presence. And those things can be the overwhelming determining factor. But again, these are two forces, both of them pushing hard, and I'm sure it'll all work out in the end. But to just think that because some folks get handed a piece of paper that, or they have credentials or tenure or this and that and whatever, that means that they're better qualified than someone who may not have as much experience. That's not always true. It's not always true.
It doesn't matter if it's always true. It has to be a measurement. There has to be some form of measurement. What I'm asking you is, how do
That's
you
the
quantify
problem.
that?
That and
You can't quantify it, and so
some things can't be quantified. You know,
Preem, let me ask you a question now.
who did?
If you and I go to 10 interviews,
Mhm.
or not, if you and I send out 10 resumes, and I never get called, but you get called to all 10 of them, guess what? If I'm a black guy and you're a Caucasian, guess what?
Did you say? I didn't hear the last. Did you say
If
guess
you
what?
and I, you and I send out 10 resumes.
Correct.
We went to the same school.
Correct.
Say we work for this company. We work for a company, and we say, you know what? We're gonna leave this company because things are not working out here for us.
Mhm.
We got the same amount as we got hired from this school together. We
Correct.
went to work at this company together.
Mhm.
We left the company. We decided to leave the company. So we send out resumes to all these different companies. We want to still work together. So we send out all the resumes to the same company, thinking that if we get hired at these companies together, we could continue working together. And
Mhm.
you get called, and I never got a call.
Okay.
That's what Mike is saying.
I actually dropped off.
Mike is telling you this. The black man's not getting called.
Okay. Let's listen. And I'm gonna keep this as simple, not for you, but sometimes when people give an example, people just want to split hairs 1,000 different ways. I'm not gonna go ahead and do that. I will say this. I've never had to submit a resume, but within a resume, I would assume there's a part to where you talk about yourself, to where you kind of ad-lib, where you kind of write an essay type of thingy about yourself, about your experience, about you, who you are, your interests, this, that, and whatever. Little things like that could be the determining factor. Maybe I wrote something in mind to where someone be like, this guy sounds a little intriguing, a little this, that, or whatever. Yeah, there are carbon copy that went to the same school, got the same grades, got the same employer, got the same history, this and that or whatever. But when it came to the freestyle, freehand stuff, to where to find a little bit about this guy sounds a little bit, he sounds interesting. I want to meet, and this other guy sounds dry and bland.
10 out of 10, you're not getting a call. Please.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you got it, Mike.
I missed out on what you were saying, DE. I got cut off earlier.
Yeah, I'm saying that if all things equal, the only thing is different on our resume that is a photo, and we both of us sent out 10 resumes to this company because we work for the same company currently, and we decided to leave this company and we want to go for work for the same company because we work good together. And the difference between us is that I am black and this guy is Caucasian. So we sent out all to 10 resumes to 10 different companies. And I don't get a call, but he gets
again,
called.
again, on that argument right there. Again, the first thing I said to that is there's gonna be you're gonna write a little description about yourself, your interests, this, that, and whatever, and those little things could be they have to be the determining factor. If you don't put anything in there, if you know other people, if you satisfy the minimum qualifications in your time, your experience, your graduation, the school, your degrees, this, that, whatever, and you don't give me anything else to kind of separate you from the rest of the pack, but this other guy does, you know, you guys can't have the same exact bio as a person. You know, so you guys didn't grow up in the same. I mean, there's going to be something that actually separates you guys. But however, let's say I buy into that everything is identical, and you say this is systemic. There are people who are better, who are being overlooked based on race. And what I would say, as I said when I first came on here, okay, cool, prove it. Get out there and compete and put that guy out of business. It can be done. I've done it.
No, you're talking about a tech industry. It's not the same as what the industry that you're referring to. No. I'm saying we have to narrow it down to the tech industry because that's the focus here, right? So the focus here is the question is why aren't there more black people involved in these industries? Why do black people make up less than 3% of the industry, despite the fact of their graduation demographics? Why is that the case?
Listen, inequity does not equal inequality. You have to go ahead and prove it. And if you are saying it's not because these people aren't better or they aren't better qualified or better candidates, then I would say if you feel that way, if they honestly feel that way, as any person who's assured that they are better, prove it. Do something better, build a competitor, and go after that person or go after that business.
I think that's a separate issue. That's a separate issue. What you're trying to do is include a different. It's create a red herring for the most part. It's just, in my opinion, it's a straw man. The question is, how do we get more black people into the industry? How do we increase the number?
Be the industry, Mike.
No. If I'm the CEO of a company, right? If I'm HP, if I'm IBM, right? Like Jenny said at the World Economic Forum at Davos. She said this last month or in January. They're working on massive hiring of what they consider to be minorities or black people into their organizations. They're going to the HBCUs. This is coming out of her mouth, right? So the CEO is saying we have a vision on what we want, and then you have people with
hiring the best people.
No, you're missing the point. And then you have people within the organization who are saying no, we don't want diversity, right? You have these quote unquote white males who are saying we don't want the diversity, so let's not hire this person.
Mike, if you have a business, Mike, do you want what's number one? I'm just asking you. I hate to generalize and just make it like an A/B thing, but you know, pardon me for making it a little simplistic. If you had a choice between A, diversity, or B, the best choice, best option, what are you gonna go ahead and prioritize in your company?
Well, I don't have to prioritize anything. If my company is sound and up and going good, I want to know about whether or not I'm meeting the demographics of my consumer base. If my consumer base is 1/3 or 1/4 black, then I want to make sure that consumer base is actually being represented within the organization.
That's your choice. And if I'm the better candidate and I'm, Joe Schmuck, the white guy, you don't choose me because I don't meet your consumer base or your diversity.
You're missing the point. Joe Schmuck, the white guy, is not even qualified. That's what's happening now.
Prove it.
The article proved it. We've talked about this before, but what I'm seeing here in the tech industry, there's a lot of nepotism, cronyism going on where this guy's father played hockey with this guy's uncle at a certain skating rink, and so that this is what's happening.
then prove it. Then again, if the people who are being shunned, who are not being an option, if they are better, I'm not saying they aren't. If they are better, what the hell is that? It is so easy to build something better and put
No,
these
it's not
guys
easy. It's not easy. It's not easy to build something better if you don't have the entry level experience that you're looking for,
what?
right? So if I'm a HBCU graduate and I'm looking to get in to IBM or Boeing or some of these companies, and I'm not getting the job because some poor white guy from Kentucky is being offered the position because
So now this is only happening at the entry level positions in tech. It's not happening at the middle positions, at the executive positions.
it's happening at all positions. It's happening at all positions. But what I'm saying here is overall, white men are being the preferred candidate, despite the fact that they may not even qualify for certain roles.
Then they are an easy kill. Then that's
how are they easy kill?
Because if they aren't even qualified, if they are a bunch of schmucks who can't even tie the shoes on straight, then if these group of people who are being shunned because of their color, creed, sexual orientation, whatever, if they get together and build something, it could be something half-assed. They will wipe these guys out. So
it's not about building.
They are better.
It's not about building a competitive product. It's about why an organization that is looking for diversity. No, it's about why an organization like IBM with a female CEO it says she wants diversity, but then the hiring process is being skewed in a way that it already discriminates against a person because they're black on LinkedIn.
Again, I don't know this, but anybody who prioritizes diversity over merit, over best qualified, in my opinion, is an idiot. I mean, listen. I mean,
how do you explain the white male? How do you explain the unskilled white male then?
Again, if that is the case, why are people worried about getting into trying to force someone to let them into their organization? If you already know the leadership they're making stupid decisions, why do you even want to be a part of that? If you're smart,
if you're on the outside, you don't know that. If you're on the outside, you don't know that. You're thinking that it may be you, right? You're on the outside thinking.
Too many excuses.
No, you're on the outside. You don't know what's going in as in hiring practice. People on the inside are. Excuse me.
But you're smarter. It
doesn't matter if you're smarter. That's what we're trying to tell you. It doesn't matter.
This argument is not monolithic. This argument is not a quote unquote tech argument. This is the same argument that people have been having. Pick the industry. It's been here. It's been there. Pick the industry.
No. The tech industry. The tech industry is a meritocracy-based industry. The problem is that there are people who are skirting around meritocracy in order to hire their own. That becomes the problem.
The same thing was said about Wall Street when Wall Street was the hot shit. It was said about Wall Street in the 80s.
How so?
It was a good old boys club. They didn't let any black folks. The same thing was said about politics. It's been said about everything.
Either you can code or you can't.
Okay, so listen. So either you go ahead and try to force yourself to go ahead and fight the good fight to go ahead and integrate into somebody else's thing, or you do what's completely given to you in a free market, which is opportunity to compete, and you choose the option to go ahead and compete.
The quantification for hiring in this industry is performance. Either you can code or you can't. If you're hiring candidates that can't do the job and you're willing to train them, then that becomes a different argument from what you're saying. That's what the article is talking about. They're hiring people with no background or no experience versus a person who already has with the same pay, and then turning back around and saying that it's all we don't have an equity issue.
You know, and I don't want to hold up your show, and I won't do his statement justice, but Plex had made, because Will had made the same argument that Plex, and Plex said, well, if that was the case, then that means I would hire the first person through the door. If it was just about who can code, then why do I need to bring in 5, 10, 15, 20 people in for interviews? I just need someone who can code. So the first application that hits my hand, based on your premise, Mike, they're hired. That's it.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Thank you.
No, what I'm saying,
Exactly.
no, because no, thank you to what you're saying. It's if let's say, for example, if Preem knows how to program in C++ and I know how to program in Java, we both know how to program, but we're using two different languages, right? So it's two different languages. So it's not a apples to oranges. I mean, apples to apples comparison. So now you have to wait for another resume to come in so you can determine whether or not you can get the guy who can program in Python or in JavaScript or some other language. That's how the industry kind of works. That's why they have such a hiring practice problem now.
Yeah, Mike, and that's why there's a hiring process and not a application review, process or moment or whatever thing. That's why it's a process. Again, I'm speaking from a little level of ignorance because I've never been in a hiring type of firing HR. I've never been in the corporate thing. You know what I'm saying? So, but I'll give you an example. Plex brought this up the other day. He was doing some HR thing in the steel field with a welder, and he said, they was bringing in welders or whatever, and they gave him 2 pieces of steel to weld or do something to, and one of the guys took the part A, part B, but then he asked for an extra part A, part B, and he did the first set A, B to the whatever they asked him to go ahead and do, and he did the second one that was just completely pimped out, yada yada yo. And he said, this first one that you guys asked for, this is X amount of dollars an hour. This other one is X amount of dollars an hour. They didn't ask for it, but it's those little things. And Blake said, can y'all guess which guy was hired out of the many? So all them knew how to hire all them knew how to weld according to this, or code, to use your language, code according to this thing. But this other guy, he went outside the box and said, hey, give me this other code, speak your language if I'm even, I'm gonna not do it justice. But he said, yeah, give me this other little thing to factor in this other code or this other problem or whatever, and just give me that also. And he gave them both options. He went above and beyond. Those things, but everybody's qualified. Everybody meets the minimal qualifications. Like I said, if the case was who has a certification, who has this graduation, or to the other brother who said who went to this school, who had this, this resume, if that was it, then it's just about the first one through the door.
No,
it's just about whoever the first one through the door is.
I understand. I understand that argument from the steel industry standpoint, but in the tech industry, that's not how it works.
It might. Every business is the same. It's just a deliverable that's different.
No,
that's a fact. That's a fact.
If we're hiring unskilled white males, there's a problem. If we're hiring unskilled white males over black males who are actually skilled, that's a problem.
Mike. Look at if Plex, if we hit the rewind button and Plex was the HR person in that steel industry, and he took a black tech guy and a white tech guy and brought them into the hiring process to weld those 2 pieces of metal together, guess what he would have?
That's not how the tech industry works.
No, exactly. He would have an unskilled black male and an unskilled white male. You know why? Because the deliverable, the business is different. There would still be an unskilled black male and an unskilled white male, and because they're unskilled at doing that deliverable, at doing that welding thing.
Well, that example doesn't work in the tech industry because that's not how the hiring process even goes.
Mike, all businesses are the same. It's just a
No,
deliverable that is different.
no,
Trust me, I swear to
no,
God. And the guy.
your example is not applicable here. That's not how the tech industry is working. The article even states that.
Mike, all businesses are the same, Mike. I swear to God. I swear to God.
I'm not saying that I'm not saying that business is not the same. I'm saying the hiring process has been skewed for white and Asian males. That's why you see more white and Asian males, despite the fact that black people have made great strides in education. They're not getting the same opportunities on purpose. So you have diversity and inclusion officers being placed in these organizations to seek out these candidates that were never being hired before.
And Mike, over the last 100, 200 years, there have never been industries where the same argument has been said that, you know, the hiring process has been skewed towards white males. Let's say, for instance, you're in the Northeast, in the what was it called, the unions or construction industry in the Northeast. There has never been an argument that, you know, black men were held out of unions or construction jobs in the Northeast because it was skewed towards white males. It's just a deliverable that was different. This is the same argument, Mike. It's just a different industry.
So the question is, how do you fix this problem, right? How do you fix the problem of not having black people represented in your organ?
Again, I'll give an example. If we talk about construction, I'm gonna murder his name, but what was it, Herman J. Lewis or whoever, the brother whose thing I've set through the Black Brain Trust, the brother down in the Florida, forgot his name. He looks like my homie's son, who's in the real estate. You know, you go off, if you're better, smarter, whatever, start your own. It's been done. It gets done.
That's not the solution. That's not the solution.
Oh God, yes it is. Oh God.
If you're Facebook and you have billions of dollars of investment into your platform,
then you be Snapchat or you be Instagram and get bought out for
you're not
for $30 billion or $13 billion with only 30 employees. You get bought out.
The number one issue that they found is that black people don't have access to capital or the resources necessary to get their platform off the ground.
I just gave you.
No, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm saying in this regard, the evaluations that have been done by the National Society of Black Engineers and many other nonprofit platforms is they found that black people don't have access to the capital necessary. They don't. Give me 1 second so I can finish before you can answer it. Black people don't have the necessary access to capital that would allow them to actually create a launching pad for themselves. So what they had to do is actually make more inclusions into the hiring processes. Now, when I've gone to these events, they've had a number of government contractors and things like that available to particularly go after black people at these events. So they want black people in these organizations, but there are people within the organizations that are saying no to these applicants. And the question is why? Why are they going out of their way to disqualify or dismiss applicants who happen to be black and of male gender? Why is that the case?
This is insane. This has to stop. This madness has to stop. I'm gonna push the rewind to the whole finance thing. What comes to mind? The 60s or 50s. You mean to tell me in the 60s, 50s, 60s, whatever, the boycotts, there were some buses or taxi cabs that, you know, there was a bus boycott and blacks didn't ride the white buses, and, you know, we had our own bus companies, but we couldn't get insurance, and I forgot the brother's name or the gentleman's name. He got all those things insured. He went to Lords of London and found the insurance to get the insurance for the buses and the taxi cabs and whatever. If black folks could find the financing or get the insurance to run those operations then in the 60s, pre-civil rights, you mean to tell me the Negro of 2019 can get money today on Wall Street?
No, that's not happening, Preem. I can tell you right now.
I'm done. Can somebody hand me a revolver with just one bullet. I gotta go. Get me out of here. If we have regressed back to that point, it's a wrap.
Preem, But
We could do it in 1960, in the 60s, but we can't do it today. We can't get money today to finance something. Money's everywhere. And the Negro today cannot get money today.
No, Preem, you're missing the point. You haven't been here for a little while, so I'll fill you in on some of the backstory of some of the stuff that we've been doing offline. We've been talking to people who have billions of dollars of government contracts in place and haven't been able to get their projects off the ground on the other continent. The number one issue for a lot of these black people who want to get their enterprises off the ground is access to growth capital. They don't have access to it because there's something called perceived risk. The banks don't want to do business with black people, especially black men, who they have a perceived risk of. So therefore, the capital necessary to grow your business, to whether it's angel investors or VCs, no one's giving these people the same opportunity. So when you talk about, well, you should just start your business and you should just do this, and that sounds nice in theory, but when you actually have to do the application, it's not working. We just had an event last month. We just had a massive event about African investment to black businesses, and the number one problem that they found was that black people are not getting access to the capital necessary to get their platforms off the ground.
Can I ask you a question? On average, I'm not asking nobody's personal business. I'm saying on average, what are these businesses asking for on average? How much money are they having problems getting? On average, from the bank, on average, a line of credit, or whatever.
The particulars are not really mentioned, but what has been mentioned by the officers is that you're talking millions and millions of dollars that are needed and are not available at either community banks or at multinational banks that don't see the necessity.
Are we talking like 2 million, 4 million?
It's up there, Prince. It's up there. So what we're talking about here is going up. You're saying that black people should compete.
Yeah.
It's not so much that they don't have the innovation. They have the skill set. They have the innovation, but they don't have access to the capital. So what's being talked about now is how do you create a new finance incubator that allows black people to have access to the capital?
Now, Mike. About 2 or 3 months ago, I had sent out a couple links as far as, black tech in Atlanta, whatever. I wasn't sending it to anybody trying to look into some of this and whatever, but just out of curiosity. And again, like you said, you guys have talked about this offline. I'm not saying everybody's ins and outs or whatever, but have some of these places that have turned these people down for financing, have there been black-owned incubators?
No, it's not black-owned incubators.
Because Preem, the blue-collar James Evans guy, in that Black Tech in Atlanta thing, I had sent over one. Black Tech Square Labs. And I'm not saying this is somebody's solution, but this is just some random shit that I know. Paul Judge. Is it Paul Judge? Yeah, Paul Judge and Rodney Sampson. Here in Atlanta. Paul Judge, self-made, multi-millionaire, cybersecurity guy. Tech Square Labs, right there by Georgia Tech. Him, Alan Nance, Paul something Sampson, not Ralph Sampson, that was a basketball player. Something Sampson. 3 guys, 2 brothers and 1 Jewish guy. They have an incubator right there. They're looking for deals. Even the guy that had the robotic bartender thing, did a screenshot on this thing right here. Black owned, black money, looking for deals, have funded deals. Give out prizes, awards, or whatever. The little stuff they trick off is like $1 million or whatever. But if they find a deal, I'm not sure how much capital these guys have, but they got quite a bit. And this is Atlanta. This is where people are itching to be, quote unquote, woke and diverse and this and that and whatever. You know what I'm saying? Even the guy who started Pardot, he has something over there off of Piedmont Avenue, and he loves the whole diversity thing. They're looking to give money away to diverse people.
So those are individual examples, and those are very exceptional. But when we talk about,
but nobody's looking at that. Nobody's looking at that. People
what do you mean no one's looking at it?
again, this is to my point as an outsider. But I know this is there, and I know and that's why and that's why almost I can roll the dice and say that I can bet that folks just aren't trying hard enough. Period.
Yeah,
Because,
I don't.
because for somebody to say the capital doesn't exist or is not there, then again, I would ask the question: has someone tried? Is someone familiar with like the black-owned incubators that are looking for black-owned investments to put money in? And if nobody's even tried these guys, then how can I take the argument seriously that
because there's a geographical disconnect there. You're assuming that everybody knows what's going on down there as opposed to what's going on up north. So what's happening here in your argument is that you're not taking into consideration that somebody who lives in Seattle is quite a ways different in distance away from where you're talking about. So
and thank you for giving me the words that I need to use. Just like you just said, that's assuming someone over there knows geographical what's going on here. Exactly. Then this same person assumes that they know the mind of finance and that finance is bigoted and finance is racist without even going across all the regions. They're automatically assuming that the money doesn't exist. It's the same thing. They're already assuming that the money is bigoted, the money is racist, and they haven't even tried all the regions.
Because you're asking people to travel for opportunities that should already be available to them when they are applying for these roles.
That's what Google's for. They don't have to get on the plane. They can Google it.
You're moving away from the actual original topic of why aren't these people being hired for these roles when they are actually qualified for it? And we know from the research that they're being discriminated against because the program Europe is actually based on this very concept. YEARUP. They train black and brown people for opportunities in these big organizations because their applications are being disqualified against for no justifiable reason. So they go through this 1-year program and then they get into these organizations. The question is, why are there so many? Why is there so much discrimination against a particular group of people when they actually qualify for the role?
Because maybe, Artie, can you prove that these people are not mediocre?
Good night, Mike.
You have a good night, brother. Have a good night.
Are you done, man? Yeah.
Can I prove that these guys are not mediocre? Or these applicants are not mediocre? There is no way to prove that they are mediocre in the application process. What happens here is there is a checkbox process. So once you start clicking certain checkboxes, that allows for certain indicators to rank for disqualification. So the question is, if you're trying to diversify your workforce, if you're IBM, if you're Google, and you want to diversify your workforce, what exactly is stopping your workforce from being diversified?
So I mean, listen, I mean, you do understand that, I mean, these companies, they aren't just like living in a box to where they're just like competing against themselves or where they're just like they're just like they're on the moat by themselves. For the most part, everybody likes to use the Googles, the Facebooks, the Apples, or, the Amazons. Those are the exceptions. But, nobody here is talking about those companies. People here are talking about startups who are starting an idea. They may have someone on their heels, or they may be going after someone else's heels. This is a competitive environment. And when you're building a company or building a startup, you're building it to win. You're going up against something. You want the best team. You want the best odds at winning. You want the best team that's going to help you win. It's not just to exist. If it was about existing, that's a beautiful world, because everybody who's mediocre will go and have a job. But there has to be, if you're building a team, building a startup, doing a whatever to win, you want the best odds at winning. You want the best team. And just looking at that someone's qualified doesn't mean you have the best team or the best option. there's going to be something that's going to separate this guy, this gal, whatever from the rest of them. And you aren't going to take any chances and just hire Andrew Blakely because his name is Andrew Blakely and he's a redhead if he sucks balls. Because, you know what I'm saying? Because Deshaun may be a better person, but if he goes to your competitor, you lose. And you're playing to win. These people aren't just playing to just exist. They're playing to win.
Is your understanding of this is that there's no racism in the industry?
Racism to me, that's a rabbit hole I don't want to go down. Racism is a watered down word in 2009. It's so watered down. I don't even acknowledge the word.
Is there not discrimination? So let me ask it this way then: is there not discrimination against certain ethnicities and people of color?
People absolutely have preferences against to rape to and sexual orientation too as well. Yeah. There is great. I personally have been more discriminated against because I was a heterosexual man than because I was black. Yeah.
Okay.
It happens. I'm in Atlanta. Go figure.
Well, Sony and Garvey, you have anything you want to add to this? I think Mosonian.
Can you brothers hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was a sparring match, and you brothers my arms are too short to box with God, so I was like, let me go ahead and step to the side. I understand. You know, I'm just I'm soaking it all in. I understand both sides. You know, brother said that, you know, without people checking you know, certain resources, you know, they're presuming that because they're black that, you know, they may not get a chance. So, you know, that's obviously understandable. You know, obviously we're not privy to it. I don't think that our social fabric in our quote unquote community is strong enough to harbor an environment in which families, and I'm talking for the most part, obviously I'm not talking about the upper crust in which, you know, that's almost second nature, you know, as far as as you mentioned, as far as the networking, hey, you know, this, you know, what's his name's uncle played hockey in this skating ring and now he gets it. You know, it's as much as I want to say, yeah, there is issues as far as discrimination is concerned. It would be often an ideological standpoint because, for example, me doing air conditioning here in Florida, a lot of times when I go to different companies, I'm usually, like right now, I'm the only black guy in the subcontract. Everybody else is Puerto Rican. You get what I'm saying? I can't, you know, and you know, it's as the brother stated, man. You know, if you know, you got companies, you know, who are trying to live. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I have the experience, certain experience in which I bring to the table. You know, I can't speak for other brothers. Even when I was in school, you could see who was serious as far as the AC program and who wasn't. But I'm going off in the weeds. But you know, to dismiss that just because certain quote unquote liberal companies, you know, have you know, they're massive, and to speak about diversity to make it seem that there isn't any type of discrimination, then I mean that's you know, it's completely foolish. You know what? I would go as far as to mention that it's almost un-American not to be discriminatory, to make certain decisions based on discrimination, especially when it comes to heterosexual black men. Because at the end of the day, again, if I may get into the pro-black spiel, we are a threat. You know, as you mentioned, And this doesn't go for white men. I'm pretty sure that most of us here can speak to those of different other backgrounds and races. When a black man is on his P's and Q's, people feel some type of way, big time, big time. And as the brother mentioned, it's about power, but they know that when a brother's on his P's and Q's, that they won't be able to exercise. Who's the most dangerous type of person? A person with nothing to lose. You know what I'm saying? You have a brother who's on his P's and Q's, you got an issue, you'll bump this. I'm out. I'm taking I'm gonna go and take my talents elsewhere. But if the brother says, you know what, I want to go ahead and create something for ourselves, again, without the access to capital is an issue, man. And this is the big problem I have with the continent as a whole, because Dr. Amos Wilson, may peace be upon him, stated that in order for black people, Africans on the continent to literally starve to death, sitting on billions, trillions of dollars, is one of the definitions of insanity. Other people cannot be what they are unless we as blacks are what we are. You understand? But I think I'm getting off tangent here. Yeah, man, it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to process. And hey, without the access to capital at the end of the day, that's all that matters. What I'm hoping is that for the 22nd century, and I was hoping that I think I submitted my link by the time all 12 slots were used up. I was hoping that we can go ahead and read that QZ article about the 22nd century belonging to Africa. And I'm sorry, brother, continue.
No, I was just going to say we're going to add that to the geopolitics.
Okay, 10-4. All right, then. That's the case. I can take my time.
Yeah, that will be hopefully you're going to be there so you can actually you'll speak on it because you're the one that submitted it. So
will that be on Monday?
Geopolitics? No, that will be on Wednesday. It should be next Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay, 10-4.
Space and technology will be Monday. But
okay.
We are going to shut it down now because we are past the hour. So.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you all for joining us, and we will be back tomorrow. Peace.
Brothers, have a good night.